What am I thankful for? Well, I'm thankful that I'm with my Florida team today on the Flame Trench. You, the viewers, and oh yeah, the fact that nobody's going to be flying on Starship for quite a while. Not Starship. What am I talking about? Starliner! Too many stars! Roll the intro.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up. Roger, roll, Atlantis.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Fighting downside FD off. Bring in FD off. It's orange! 145! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! Look at that! Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed. We rise together, back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes. You read? We don't need any more of these.
Hello and welcome everybody to the Flame Trench. This is our weekly news show where we go over some of the hot topics in spaceflight and give our usually cool takes on all of them. I am Sawyer Rosenstein. I will be your host for this Flame Trench. And yeah, as mentioned, it is a Thanksgiving Flame Trench, at least here in the United States. And as I mentioned in the intro, the correct part, when I didn't mess it up, I am joined by the Florida team today for the Flame Trench. So let's introduce who is with me here, starting off with... Who do we got, Jay?
Oh,
Max!
No.
How's it going, Max?
How's it going, everybody? Glad to be here. Yeah, it is... I don't want to call it a Black Friday or a Thanksgiving trench. This feels more like a Black Friday trench, but that's a topic for a different day.
Oh no, we'll be talking about Black Friday sales because ABP.
Oh, God. I don't know why they went right over my head at first.
It's fine. And also joining us is D Wise. D, how's it going?
It is going really well. You know, there are some interesting things that have happened this week to talk about. So we have all that and more, and some, I think, lesser known things to talk about that I'm really excited to share. So this will be a good one.
I think this will be a good one as well. And to make it a good one, we will, of course, be answering your questions throughout it. So if you have any, you can tag us at NASASpaceflight or at NSF. And we will do our best to answer as many of your questions as we can throughout the show. As always, just ask, kind of keep it based off of the topic that we're talking about. You know we'll talk about all the other stuff eventually. So, yeah. Anyway, let's get things started off here. So yeah, my intro I was talking about, I originally wrote Soyuz and Starship for some reason of things that aren't going to be flying. First off, it was Starliner, but the other one I excluded Soyuz because someone's like, before the show, the guys were like, wait a minute, what about, you know, the fact that you're not thankful? Why are you thankful it's not flying? I guess we'll go into the details of that. It did successfully launch a Soyuz vehicle just the other day, carrying 3 more people to the International Space Station as part of the Expedition 73 crew, launching from Pad 31 over at the Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. We saw NASA astronaut Chris Williams and a pair of Sergeys for Roscosmos launching aboard their Soyuz spacecraft. So it was Sergei Kudysverkov and Sergei Mikheyev, because that doesn't get confusing at all. The launch itself looked absolutely beautiful, and a couple hours later, the crew of 3 arrived at the International Space Station, docking successfully, and as you can see from Dee's background, having a nice little celebration after the hatch opening. D, I didn't know you were part of the crew, but good to see you in there with the crew.
This is actually the 2021 or 2020 Thanksgiving on the ISS behind me. I figured we'd get an interesting Thanksgiving on the ISS background today.
There you go. But this launch happened on Thanksgiving, and thankfully the crew did make it to space and did make it to the ISS. Not so thankfully, their launch pad had quite a different fate that it withstood. So, it turns out that during that portion of the launch where you saw right there, there is a service area that goes underneath Soyuz. So, basically, it goes under that allows crews to get underneath it, access it, reach bottom parts of the rocket once it's out at the pad. This is a render from Roscosmos of what it looks like. Before launch, they actually are able to move it out of the way and lock it into place. It has its own little spot that it kind of slides into to be out of the way. You could see on the left side of that image there's a little flame deflector to try and protect it, and then all is supposed to be fine. They roll it back out and it's good to go for the next one. Yeah, there is that room, by the way, that it then slides into. However, it didn't quite do that. It actually got severely damaged and somehow managed to roll its way into the flame trench and flip upside down. Yes, he said the thing, and yes, that is upside down. So yeah, that's a bit of an oops. The other thing to remember is that this is the only launch pad that right now Soyuz can basically launch humans from and launch to the ISS from. They got rid of the one that Gagarin flew from, so it's pretty much this and nothing else. They can't launch out of French Guiana because of the sanctions imposed against Russia there. The other option is Vostokny, but that's not really set up for humans or ISS missions in general. And Russia had a very measured response to this, basically saying, hey, our mission went well. And here was their response from it. They posted this as an official statement on Telegram, because Roscosmos. It said, an inspection of the launch site was conducted, as is done every time after a rocket is launched. Damage to several elements of the launch pad was identified. Damage may occur after launch, so such inspections are mandatory in global practice. An assessment of the condition of the launch complex is currently underway. All necessary backup components are available for restoration, and the damages will be addressed in the near future. So yeah, basically saying everyone has issues after their launch that needs to be repaired. Duh! Yeah. So we'll see what this means, because the next launch that was scheduled from there was a Progress resupply vehicle set to launch no earlier than December 19th. About those launch dates, I think they're going to change. Yeah.
They may delay a bit.
This a little bit.
So this is kind of a big deal, obviously. I mean, what do we see as the future of this launch pad? First off, how does something like this happen? And where does Roscosmos go from here?
It's tough to really say at the moment because of obviously the vagaries that they have, I guess, kind of danced around since this happened. But I think it's worth touching on, or at least questioning, or I guess inquiring. Sawyer, do you know? I'm not. This obviously this service structure isn't original. It isn't from the early '60s or the late '50s, whenever this complex was actually constructed. But it's one of the trickiest launch complexes in the world to work on, specifically because of that gargantuan flame trench that is currently below the rocket. There is no deluge system or any sort of small and severely angled actual flame diverter. Everything just moves out of the way, and there's just this big cavernous void that all of the engines fire into. It's also worth noting that at launch, obviously, that the entire area is subject to massive temperature change and severe vibrations and noise, which could, if any hold down pins are not correctly fastened, or if a super old piece of technology or hardware was damaged during launch, it could have broken under the massive weight that surely that piece of hardware weighs, and comes sliding down and right back into the flame trench. Tough to say. Although, if of all things considered, I think this whole thing could have been a lot worse. For it to have just rolled out by itself, seemingly because of some kind of maybe small hardware failure, this could be either a somewhat simple fix of building a new one, or transferring one from a different launch complex, even though they don't have nearly as many as they used to now, given the past 5 or 6 years. But It's certainly not ideal, but it's also worth noting again that they not only can they not launch the Soyuz spacecraft from there, they also cannot launch Progress, which currently is the only spacecraft that has the ability to refuel the Zvezda service module up on the International Space Station, which is of course is on the Russian side. So they're in a bit of a pickle, and it is currently their only active pad for Soyuz at the moment, at least for these operations. So tough to say, obviously how vague they have been with the whole thing, and that will never that will never change because it's Roscosmos. But I'm struggling to imagine how they would rebuild a whole service cabin so quickly, without actually just either using an old structure from a different launch complex or just straight up transferring one from Vostozhny. I'm not sure.
I mean, part of it, they don't necessarily have to immediately rebuild the whole thing in order to get up and launching again. So to look at it from the positive side, they could do what feels like the SpaceX way and just make something that will work for the next launch as they continue to build a new one in the background, figure out what went wrong. They might be able to put together a solution that might not be perfect, but it will get the job done, because it's not like this is a component on the rocket itself. It's not like it's one of those things. It's ground service equipment. It moves out of the way for launch. It's not like a supporting structure during the launch. So in terms of how bad or good things could be, like, it could be a whole lot worse than I think it is. That doesn't mean they're going to be up and launching anytime soon. It could be a significant delay here until we see Russia actually launch to the ISS again. But, I mean, the main thing is that, like, the crew made it to the space station. The crew's fine. The crew will be able to return just fine. And they can worry about launching the other crew. Like, the crew's safe. I feel like that's the main thing. And obviously they've got the challenges to work through here. Figuring out what went wrong, making sure it doesn't happen again. I'd be curious exactly how old whatever component that broke that led to this what is evidently a massive failure. Like, what root component failed? How old was that? How many launches has that withstood? And is that something that new methodology of inspections could fix in the future? I'm sure they will be exploring all of that in the coming days as they work to find their path forward from here.
Yeah, and again, we don't know exactly what it was that caused it to basically fall out of the fall out from under the rocket and into the trench upside down. We don't know if it was a failure. We don't know if it was somebody forgot to, the stopper that they use to actually keep the platform secured. It's basically just a metal rod that they stick in. It's possible that wasn't stuck in and it slid down. This is all rumors at this point, just from a lot of VPNs and Russian translating I was doing last night. But yeah, so there are possibilities out there. It could be, again, we don't know the maintenance records, like you said, of this pad. We're talking from the 1960s originally, and I'm sure a lot of that infrastructure has been updated over time. But I mean, look at that thing. It looks pretty darn trashed. They said they have replacement parts, but they essentially have to rebuild that entire thing or, refix it. I don't know exactly how long that's going to take. And I guess when you think about it now, that leaves one crew capsule, and we'll get to Starliner's deal in a bit, but one crew capsule right now that's able to launch to the ISS.
You know what, Sawyer? It's funny that you mentioned Starliner so early. We will get to that topic of discussion later. But for a moment, a fun
By the way,
thought
real
experiment.
quick, sorry, that's the pin, by the way, that I was talking about.
Yes.
Sorry,
really
go
quickly.
ahead.
No, you're good. Really quickly. Put yourself in, or take yourself mentally to a world where there's only Starliner, where there isn't Dragon. To this point, Starliner has not been able to successfully launch and return a crew to and from the International Space Station in this 2025 going into 2026. Now, imagine Soyuz has this issue and Starliner is the only capsule able to fly crew from the U.S. What do we do? because this is a big pickle. It's not as big as it could be, granted, with Dragon also flying here in the U.S., but it's a big deal. It's hard to downplay it, and it's also I don't want to use the word. It's too harsh, but a colossal mess up. Like, how do you even let this happen? Because that is obviously not a simple piece of infrastructure that can just be repaired within like 3 weeks. That is quite obviously a very complex metallic structure with multiple levels on it that has to move and connect to very serious parts of the business end of Soyuz. This is, I guess, equivalent to how do we, if we had to compare this to anything that happened to Starbase, I guess it would be something happening at Massey's maybe, or at the launch site. Maybe them having a massive failure of the actual launch mount at Pad 2, whether it be there being heat and steam reaching areas in the launch mount that it shouldn't, and there being a massive just steam blowout, there being significant damage to the launch mount. That's what this kind of feels like. And so the path forward is very murky, and it never won't be from our perspective because, again, Roscosmos, and we don't have readily available information on the launch site. But time will tell, as we often say.
That's a really interesting thought of if it was
Yeah.
just Starliner. That would be kind of terrifying. Just going to say it. But this feels very familiar we were talking about this in the pre-show. D, we're getting to it a little bit. This feels a little bit like, I don't know, a time when we had a way that we could get to space and then decided we're going to retire it and didn't have anything else that could get us there in the meantime, so we had to rely on other people. Shuttle Demo 2?
Yes and no. I think Russia is in a far better place to continue crew launches at a quicker pace than the US was at the retirement of the shuttle. There were plans, and that was it. But Russia now has their whole, they have a rocket that works. It's just this one structure at this one launch pad that isn't functional. So I feel like Russia's in a far different place, not quite the same place that we were at the end of shuttle, but it's still obviously not good that they have this structure. So I'd be curious, again, exactly which functions are performed here that could maybe be performed in a different methodology that doesn't require the entirety of the structure. But like you said, we'll just have to wait and see how soon they can get back up and going.
Yeah, and Gabriel GG was asking earlier, how did Soyuz destroy the pad if it isn't a heavy lift powerful rocket? Well, in Soviet Russia, you launch pad. But I mean, that's the thing, is it's not considered a heavy lift vehicle, but like we were pointing out, I mean, that thing will fire up its engines like 10 or 15 seconds early for them to ramp all the way up. You have 2 stages essentially firing at the same time. They consider the strap-on boosters its own stage. So you've got the strap-on boosters, and then you have the actual engines on the booster core. That's a lot.
Yeah. But that pad also, mind you, is about 60 years old now, if not getting closer to 70. It's not a brand new launch complex that was built last year. That pad has seen some use, and it has some stories. It's not like Pad 1 or Site 1, as they call it, where it was the first pad to launch humans, i.e. Yuri Gagarin. But still, it's not a newer piece of infrastructure, and because of that, the massive height gap you have from the bottom of the trench to where this service cabin would be. That is a lot of ground to literally, or I guess not ground. That is a lot of space to move, and a lot of space to make construction of a new, or even a temporary solution platform more difficult. You can't. It's not like Starbase where you can roll something down the highway, build it maybe at the launch site, or build it over at Sanchez, and roll it out 2 or 3 weeks later. It's not that simple.
Right, and Bill Puck also asking, with the current global situation, do they have the means to repair this rapidly? I mean, they claimed that they have replacement parts in that Telegram statement they put out, But yeah, if there's anything they need, there are a lot of sanctions against Russia, which means they basically have to have it or be able to make it themselves,
Yeah.
and then be able to ship it all the way to Kazakhstan.
Which is not close to Moscow.
No, not exactly.
No.
And Severin asking, can they launch Progress or Soyuz on a Falcon if needed?
That's a fun thought experiment.
I
Well,
think
let's
it's
just say
gonna
politically
stay a
they would
thought
never let that
experiment.
happen.
Yeah, there's no way that would actually happen.
No.
It'd be like, I wouldn't say no to watching that, but no, it's not gonna happen.
Yeah, I mean, the fact that retiring all the RD-180s with Atlas, that you have to redesign the entirety of Antares to get rid of the 181s. Yeah, I don't think they're going to ever do that. Could they, though?
Could they? Sure, but I think the more realistic option is they might try to find some way to launch from Vostochny, which is north of the Baikonur Cosmodrome. The only issue one of the main issues about flying Soyuz or Progress from either of those launch complexes is the ascent corridor where they would have to eject Soyuz if there was some kind of emergency, or I guess Progress at that point for debris, is the path takes you over water. And that now thinking immediately, you might think, oh, that's a great idea. There's no people. Capsules splash down in the ocean all the time. Soyuz is not designed to splash down in the ocean. It is designed specifically to land in the desert steppe of Kazakhstan. It doesn't have any flotation devices. It doesn't have any sort of life support system that would support the capsule out in water. So that, I think, if they can find a way to work around that and somehow modify the current structures they have in Vostochny to support a crewed Soyuz and the Progress vehicles alike, they could do that. But I wish we had more insight, because it is either way, whether they rapidly rebuild a brand new service cabin for Site 31 or if they move up to Vostochny somehow. It's going to be equally fascinating to find out, because I think the next launch of Progress is scheduled for, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, sorry, I think it's December 15th for a Progress resupply.
19th as of now.
Yes, okay. So that's coming up fast. But I think, as you said earlier, Sawyer, I think, about those launch dates, I think that we can expect that to delay a bit. Yeah, but that's coming up fast. But I don't think Roscosmos can move that quickly. But it could be proven wrong.
All right, so here's an interesting question from the Admanta. So, do you think that this will be fixed before they retire the ISS? I think it's safe to say yes, but the question is, when do you think this will be fixed? And I'll throw this to everybody. When do you think, D, I'll start with you. When do you think we'll see launches again from this site?
I'm gonna stay optimistic, and I'll say it'll be less than a year. I know optimistic and whatnot, but I don't know. Like, I don't want to downplay structure significance, but like, there are so many worse things it could be, and obviously this is going to be a point of priority. So I feel like they'll be able to get it taken care of relatively quickly. Fingers crossed.
Max, what do you think?
I'm going to err on the side of D and say less than a year, but I guess to be a bit more precise, somewhere between like 6 to 8 months. Russia doesn't have a choice unless, if Russia wants to keep flying astronauts or cosmonauts from Baikonur and as well as being able to resupply the Russian side of the station, they don't have a choice but to move fast. So unless there is a bigger issue at play here in their whole political structure and their funding just collapses, they really need to get their butts moving. And I want to say it'll hopefully take them around 6 to 8 months.
I'm torn, because obviously that's a lot of damage, but
Yeah.
they claim that they're going to be able to repair it. Plus, I'm not sure how the safety standards are there. So I wouldn't be surprised if they try and speed things up a little bit for the sake of speeding things up, which is a little bit concerning. So I think it's going to be closer to 6 months. I think the next scheduled crew rotation aboard Soyuz, they're going to try and aim for that. And if anything, it maybe gets pushed by a month.
Okay.
it might be longer than that. Because again, like you said, we don't know the full extent of the damage. We don't know the full extent of what happened and what they have on back order, other than their very vague statement of we have replacement parts. And everyone checks their launch pads after. It's hard to tell.
You'd have to really not check your launch pad to not notice that amount of damage, though, and that huge structure just sitting in the flame trench. I don't know what level of inspection anywhere could possibly do to miss that.
Yeah. And again, it's also worth pointing out the fact that Russia still has ways to get their cosmonauts to the ISS. So, I mean, Crew 12 is scheduled to go up. I believe they moved it to February now. It's been shuffling around with Artemis dates and all of that. That is still scheduled to have people on board. And in fact, our own Ryan Caton pointing out an update from the Cosmonaut Training Center website, basically saying that Andrei Fedyaev is replacing Oleg Artemyev, who was supposed to be on Crew 12. So this was just posted 10:41 p.m. last night was when Ryan updated it. So interesting, they're already switching crew members around on that. And also one of the flight engineers on Soyuz MS-30, so 2 from them has changed, but they're doing crew switches around there. So they're still going to send people.
Just not on Soyuz a bit for a bit.
Yeah. Yep. Almost like how we used to pay, I think it was almost $80 million at one point for a seat on Soyuz.
I thought it was more than that. I thought it was like over $100 million.
I didn't think it hit over 100 while until Crew Dragon was flying, at least. I thought it got to 80s or 90s. Either way, before Shuttle retired, it was about 30 million. So.
Yeah.
Capitalism.
Yeah, it'd be nice. Like, I hope that the fact that we are continuing to have some seat swaps with flying cosmonauts on Dragon and astronauts on Soyuz, like, I'm sure, like, Russia will continue to be able to have people going up there, however long this takes. Like, the space cooperation still exists here. It's that we are temporarily one vehicle reliant, but we're reliant on Dragon, and we'll get closer and closer to having to touch on Starliner again. Like, Starliner will come and it will be able to fly, because I don't want. I know we're talking about this later. I don't want to dive into it too much. Like, these topics tie in really well together.
They do.
Like, the return did work out safely. And so had crew been on board, it would have been okay. So I don't know. I'm backing myself into a corner now.
You're talking about the fact that, it's super important that they get progress at least, because that's how they refuel the ISS. Bob Smith asking, could they just use Cargo Dragon and reboost it, since they proved that on the most recent Cargo Dragon mission?
Yes, they could. They did, but they also have Cygnus as well. Whenever Cygnus is berthed to the station, as we also most recently saw, but that doesn't fly very often. Certainly as often as we would like. So they have technically 2 vehicles that could do it, both with Dragon and Cygnus. But Cygnus has to be berthed to the station to do that, which more often than not it isn't. But there is always a Dragon docked to the space station at all times, at least for now. Maybe Starliner will change that, and then they'll do a swap once or if Starliner does become certified to fly crew operationally. But again, those have to be docked to the station, much like Progress, to be able to reboost the station. Even though Progress itself doesn't actually do, I think, the boosting. It just refuels the Zvezda module, and then the thrusters on the Zvezda module help with the reboost. Somebody correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that's how it works.
Right.
Does Russia exit earlier than planned?
The voice of God himself, Kevin Michael Reed.
Jay's having some internet problems, so I figured I'd chime in since I was thinking it.
I mean, yeah.
I don't.
Yeah. Oh, thanks, Kevin.
Does it serve? with what purpose would they choose to exit earlier? Like cost
Oh.
savings?
I,
Like-
they can't make it there, but they'd already discussed, hey, let's bail out early potentially. They were talking about 2028, but I don't think they would be able to bow out that easily and be like, yeah, actually we can't launch stuff, so you know what? We're done. Goodbye. We're gonna detach our stuff, and that's it. Especially if they do detach it. As you were pointing out, Max, yeah, they can reboost the station, but that's not so much the issue with the refueling. It all has to do with the attitude control systems. So basically, whenever certain vehicles are coming, or if they need to get out of the way of orbital debris, they can rotate the station, they can move it up, down, over a little bit. Up, down, relative, of course. That's more of what it's for. There are times when it actually is better to rotate the station an entire 90 degrees. That's not something that Progress is going to be doing. That's onboard thrusters on the ISS.
Correct. And yes,
So-
I did, just as a small correction, Progress does do ISS reboost on top of the thrusters on Zvezda.
Yeah. So, I mean, these are really good questions. Let me take a second here, thank some people before we continue on here. Tal MD becoming a Capcom member. Capcom at above getting access to the NSF Discord and the Flame Trench pre and post show as well, of which Jake, I know people have been saying, where's Jake? He made an appearance in the pre-show. So just saying, whether he shows up in the rest of the show, you'll have to stick around and find out. Because I don't even know the answer. Carrion, thank you for becoming a PadRat member. Lords of Random saying happy 42 years since the launch of STS-9, everyone. Hang, math? Has it really? 42 years?
The magic number.
I
I was like,
remember
wait a
like
minute, no,
was
it can't be
yesterday.
that long.
Yeah, remember like it was yesterday, right?
Oh, absolutely. It was the last one before they decided to go to the stupid numbering scheme because, oh yeah, we're going to be launching from different pads on different coasts, so we're going to need to differentiate. So let's go to 41, D. Yeah. Mr. Fluffy, can the methane be ignited in the flare while in the rain? Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably.
Speaking of Oliver Remond asking, do we know where the Elk is working now, or is it still a mystery? It is Astroforge.
Yes.
You can see it on his X profile as well. Jack, for some reason, still bugging us in the Discord anyway with his terrible takes on bagels. I don't know why, but less of a mystery of where he went and more of a mystery of why is he still, defending his bagel claim in Discord. Oh gosh,
Because
and
he
yes,
can.
and the debate on preheating an oven, which this was
Oh
a
my
whole
gosh.
thing.
Can we
That
not
was a
bring
big
that
one.
onto the flame trench? Good lord.
That was a really big discussion for an extended period the other day.
To
Right,
a point where literally DOS got involved. Like,
Right,
It was
it's-
kind of surreal. DOS got involved and we're like, oh my god, DOS is typing.
And then I sent an unrelated photo, and I happened to get asked by Crispy, does the oven have a preheat option?
I mean, yeah, well, you preheat the oven. The Associated Press AP Style Guide, which is what we use for the website, NASASpaceflight.com, for all of our articles, which you should go check out, says preheat is valid. So,
It's not.
and
They
yeah,
recently changed their mind.
It's
so
not.
yeah, it's people saying they have the relight on their oven. Yes, you preheat it. Compacted, thank you for gifting a Red Team membership. Canon getting a bunch of items from the shop at shops.nasaspaceflight.com. Let's see here. Getting one of the sweaters, nice. Getting warm for the holiday season, saying stocking up for Flight 12. Plenty of time after Booster 18. Yeah, also the whole Pad 2 still, under construction. Getting some awesome stuff there from the shop. Thank you very much for that. And Bideford gifting 5 Red Team memberships. We love seeing that name. Thank you very much, Bideford. So, let's stick with some international stuff here and keep going abroad. Let's go from one country that U.S. has rough relations with to another, and that's China. So, this vehicle that you see on your screen is set to actually launch soon, TM. It was originally going to be a couple hours from now, but the latest closures were just updated to show that now it looks like December 1st, so November 31st into December 1st is when they are set to launch the first Zuku 3 mission. I know I'm going to mispronounce it the entire time, so I'm just going to call it ZQ3 from now on, and I know then the Brits are going to go, but it's ZQ3. No matter what I say, it's going to be wrong, so ZQ3. The closures are in effect for a 12 to 2 p.m. local time launch, which is basically middle of the night for those of us here on the east coast of the United States. Launching from the Jiuquan Satellite Launch Center's slightly next door neighbor, the Commercial Space Innovation Test Zone. So this is set to launch. It's very similar in its design, at least in its specs, to Falcon 9. It's around the same size. You got 66 meters tall. Stage 1 also has 9 engines, but those are the Tianque 12As, not the Merlins. And it is Methalox. I remember this was in the race back then of what's going to be the first Methalox rocket to orbit? Who's it going to be? And we thought that land space and this rocket actually had a shot. Mm-hmm. It didn't win, obviously, but it might still do it, and it might make China the second country to launch and then land the first stage of an orbital class booster. I am not counting Buran in this. You may come at me. But yeah, I mean, this thing's really cool. It's about 4.5 meter diameter, 66 meters tall, 21,000 kilos to LEO in its expendable format, 18,300 if they plan to do the booster recovery. And you could see this was just a couple days ago taken right before the replacement crew capsule was launched to the Tiangong space station. Speaking of which, it's believed that the initial payloads on this is going to be a sort of teaser for their new resupply vehicle to their Tiangong space station. And it is called Haolong 1. And it's very reminiscent of Dream Chaser, I will say that. It's kind of that mini space shuttle vibe. Huh, a mini space shuttle launching on a methane vehicle? No. Never heard of that option before. But look at that. Tell me that isn't like a copy of Dream Chaser / X-37B into one.
I love it.
And also Dinosaur, and also ESA's spaceplane concept, and also a V3 Starship somehow.
Yeah. Ryan Kate in the back channel. How long is like Dream Chaser except it will actually fly?
Oh, too soon.
Too
soon.
That's harsh. That's actually harsh.
But yeah, they did the wet dress rehearsal and the static fire of this back in mid-October. And so it will be interesting to see. They are going to try and land this at in Mingqueen, which I'm totally butchering the names of all of these. It's about 390 kilometers southeast on a landing pad. Oh, what do you think? How are we feeling about success on the first flight? And do you think they will be one of the first ones to actually stick the landing from orbit, or at least orbital trajectory, on the first try?
I mean, ZQ2 did pretty well, and ZQ3 obviously is just an evolution of that. And it honestly, the thought just came to me, Sawyer. I think you've also been on streams when people have asked, like, why can't you just stick Raptor engines on Falcon 9 and use methane instead? Because you can't, because you'd have to re-engineer the entire rocket. So essentially, what ZQ3 is kind of is a re-engineered Falcon 9 inspired rocket that uses methane and slightly detuned Raptors, or very detuned Raptors, even though they are full flow stage combustion. But it is like that's kind of what this rocket is. In terms of success, I think launch is going to go just fine. The landing is where things are going to get tricky because we don't know the exact thrust to weight ratios. We don't know how far or how deep these engines can throttle. what engine parameters they're going to be using for an entry burn if they have one, or a landing burn, whether it's going to be like a 131 like Falcon for entry, and then either also a 131 during landing for some, or just a single engine landing burn like we most often see. Is it going to be like a hover slam or a suicide burn like we see on Falcon? Is it going to be able to hover like New Glenn that we just most recently saw with New Glenn Flight 2? We don't know. If I had more information on that, I would be a lot more comfortable making a more confident prediction. I'm like probably 70-30 they're not going to land it at the moment, but I think that they're going to get a lot closer than some people think. And also, the booster isn't going to be traveling as far downrange as either New Glenn's first stage does, GS1, or even Falcon 9. Because more often than not, we see the drone ships are stationed out around or just farther out than 600 kilometers offshore. And Sawyer, I think you said this was going like, what, 300? Yeah, 390 kilometers away from the launch site, which isn't as far, which I guess tells us a little bit of how fast it might be going and how long it might be firing. But tough to say. I'm like 70-30 they won't do it, but I think they're going to get pretty close.
And if they don't land, it will still technically land, just probably on someone's village.
Oh, gosh. Oh, dear.
I mean,
we hope not.
That's one of the things, though.
The thing is,
go ahead, D.
It'll be more controlled regardless. They've got grid fins. They're planning a trajectory for an actual controlled landing. It's not like they're going to... I feel like we have a lot better odds in this case. And Alex in the back channel is saying they could even be doing a boost back burn to be landing closer, so that maybe they are going farther down, doing a partial boost back, and then landing just sort of as a test for their systems. Who really knows until we actually see it fly? And as for the odds I would give it, I'll have to just say I think I did this for the first New Glenn, but I gave it the second New Glenn a better chance, and I'll give it a coin toss. Like, we'll have to just wait and see. It either lands or it doesn't.
Wow, thank you, Alex. But yeah, there's the distance you can see there with the notice areas in China of the launch area and then that landing zone. So that's kind of roughly where you can expect the trajectory. So for the people at home wondering, can I see this launch? And if you do, share it to us. Oh wait, no, this different vehicle. It's Falcon 9-esque, but not one of our broadcasts.
I mean, hopefully we'll still see footage from the ground of it, no matter what happens.
The only thing is it's China, so we'll see what we get. But
well, true.
Yeah, and speaking of the Chinese government themselves, I mean, ZQ3, I know that's not the pronunciation. Thank you, Lords of Random, trying to help me. Juche 3? Anyway, that's not the only one. The Chinese government themselves has their own that they are working on as well. And we finally recently got a tiny little glimpse of one that was shared on one of their social media accounts. And that we actually kind of saw a photo of from Chinese social media of their Shenzhou, which I know I'm also butchering, 12A. So that's vertical. That is also set to launch sometime this year. There it is. That's another one that will launch with the first stage set to land back on land again. They're really getting into it. And then don't forget, there was also Tianlong 3, which was the one last year that did the not-so-static fire and accidentally launched during one of its tests. But
yep.
All of those set to launch either the end of this year or beginning of next year from China. That's 3 in the reusable game.
I have to point out as well, just in this photo, like talk about like cell phone camera at 25 times zoom with like AI enhancements. Like that's what, like Jay, I'm not sure if you can punch in on it, but like that's how this image looks. Like it looks so AI doctored. It's kind of insane. But obviously that was probably done intentionally to hide any sort of like, yeah, look at this. Look at this. It looks kind of like an AI drawing or an AI's rendition of what a Chinese reusable rocket might look like.
Yeah, that doesn't look like a photo at all.
No, it doesn't. It really doesn't.
It's like someone got a a shot from a distance and fed it through filter after filter. Like,
Yep.
I don't even want to say that's AI enhancement quality. That's like 2010's Instagram filter for drawing style.
Or like denoise or like artificially upsizing the
Ugh. Yeah. When you have 3 people who shoot photography on camera, we're gonna dunk on
There
this
are
image
lines
quality.
there. Like,
Yeah.
the whatever system found lines. I'm guessing through a lot of heat haze, because those are some wiggly lines
Yeah.
to the side of the rocket.
Yes.
Yeah, I love the Chinese flag just is a red square. You can't even see any of the stars or anything. It's just
Wait, you
red
can't?
square or red rectangle.
A square?
But yeah,
A square, Sawyer?
there
A
are some
rectangle's a
countries that
square.
have square flags, but it's not this one anyway.
No.
But yeah, you could see though it's got the grid fins, it's got all of that. Yeah, there's supposed to be a star up there.
Multiple, yeah. Can't
Anyway.
Jay, get your drawing skills out.
Yeah.
Kidding.
We need J art like right now.
Now Long March 12A, which
no,
yeah,
Sawyer.
I've been told just call it Long March. Now Long March 5.
Now Long March 5. Different rocket, but still cool.
Yeah. Resistojet coming with the question saying, do you think China will use the new rocket to help launch their own large constellation of communication satellites if they haven't already? My understanding is that's part of why they're trying to get all of these on board, is basically to do what Falcon 9 does. Just basically, it's if Falcon 9 and Starship had a baby. So you get the Methalox from Starship and the steel outside from Starship, and then everything else is Falcon 9. And the mother's
not
nose.
everything. Not everything. They have those strakes on the side, just like New Glenn.
And they are
So-
really thin, but also
Yeah.
like relatively large. Like, looking at all those shots we were seeing earlier, they're not like Starship, how it just sort of has the triangle chines. No, they're proper, like almost look like wings. They're a lot more like New Glenn's.
Yeah. So there is a bit of a lift element there that's going to be taking place when it is coming back into Earth's atmosphere. Nice fade transition there, Jay. Goodness. I have no idea how it's going to fly. I really hope that there is sufficient coverage to see at least how it behaves post-stage separation. And obviously also we hope to see some sort of cameras around the LZ, similar to what we see either at LZ1 and 2 or LZ4 at Vandenberg, and also on the drone ships as well. But I don't have my hopes up because, of course, Chinese government and what they do and what they censor. But I don't know. It's going to be exciting one way or another. As Elon often says, it's excitement guaranteed so long as it gets off the pad.
Yeah. Oh, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And by the way, for the other part of the question, yes, there are internet satellite constellations being launched by China as well. One of the ones that I know for sure, I believe, is pronounced Guowang. Again, totally butchering all of these because I'm just a lousy American who isn't very cultured, I guess, internationally. But they've already been launching a bunch of their missions so far. Guess which rocket?
Long March 5.
Now Long March 5. B, but Long March 5. Oh, man. It'll be interesting to see what they do. And again, the fact that you've got 3 different reusable vehicles now lined up for China.
Yep.
Is this finally the end of them dropping boosters on villages? I hate to say it that way, but
I mean, we can hope, but also they have to work. Like, that's the thing. Like, we saw this with Falcon in the early days because they were the first ones to do it, and Falcon was a particularly tricky beast to land because of its very low thrust to weight and not very deep throttling ability with the Merlins. You have to make it work. Like, we've seen this time and time again where people have put up hardware or companies have put up hardware that they have acclaimed to so many things for. Off Dream Chaser, excuse me. But it has to work, but the fact that they are this close with 3 separate launch vehicles and they have actual hardware on the pad speaks volumes. So that their chances of success are higher than it's ever been. So I certainly hope so, Sawyer. I really do.
by the way, I know many of you are going back to the space plane while you're mentioning Dream Chaser there. how long one? 10 meters long is how long.
Oh, jeez. No one
I
more
made sure to
thought.
look
I
that
don't
up
know.
specific. I looked it up specifically for that joke. Just saying.
Oh, did you really?
Yes, I did.
Oh, God.
I'm not proud, but I'm
No,
kind of
you
proud.
are. You are. You're proud and you're smug. You always are.
Yeah, I kind of am proud. Oh boy, but we will see what happens with those. Hopefully they launch. And by the way, if you want actual pronunciations of these, because obviously mine is pretty bad, don't forget we have This Week in Spaceflight coming up, which is the actual serious news show where we go over everything happening in spaceflight, and Alicia is really good at the Chinese pronunciations.
Yes,
So,
she is. That she is.
yeah, so that will be following the Flame Trench immediately. Hey, I got some people saying that was actually a decent one. I will take it. Also decent is the support that we've still been getting. Mr. Fluffy saying so is so is a preheated oven potentially a flame trench if you're a bad enough cook.
Just look at Jack's bacon that he has previously posted, or others have previously posted in food chat in the Discord downstairs, and I think you will see that yes, a preheated oven potentially can become a flame trench.
So
I
can
mean, it can
anything
happen.
if you try hard enough. I
Yeah,
guess.
I mean it can happen if you don't preheat it. That's for sure. It can even happen when it's fully heated. But I appreciate the joke there. Speaking of, in the members Discord, Torsten, I'm totally butchering names today, and both in English and in Chinese. Thank you for upgrading to Capcom member. We will see you in the NSF Discord, and please go make fun of, what was his name? Elk or something? I don't know who this Jack is that you're talking about. Some abandoner. Let him know he's wrong about his burnt bacon. And Steve with the 20-pound tip at tips.nasaspaceflight.com. Thank you for going the extra mile to do that. It cuts out the middleman and helps us directly, which we appreciate. Saying, doing a great job, guys. Even if my wife does roll her eyes and ask, are you watching rockets again?
There are worse things to be watching, my friend.
And in this case, you're not. You're just watching three people talk about rockets.
True. I mean, we're
As
showing
nerds
B-roll
do.
of rockets, but...
Yeah, yeah.
Oh, boy. Anyway, we appreciate you watching and for the support. Thank you. So, this next news is very interesting because we were teasing earlier. It has only, I think, 19 likes total on the announcement, but it's actually really interesting. And Dee, you brought this one to the table. Let's talk about Vaya Space.
Yeah, so it's only 12 likes, and 2 of those are me between their 2 posts. But Vaya Space announced that they are going to be trying to introduce offshore launch capabilities for their Dauntless rocket. So I'm sure not many of you are probably familiar with Vaya and Dauntless. Like, they haven't launched yet. It's a bit harder to be excited about a company when they haven't launched. You haven't really seen that hardware, but Vaya has announced here a partnership with Seagate Space, so they will be launching Dauntless off of their Gateway floating launch platform. So it's somewhat interesting that they're launching actually from the Gulf. I figured if you have a water-based launch platform, it would potentially make more sense to launch from the ocean. You can get farther from land. Like, if you're in the Gulf, you're limited trajectory-wise, but they're going to be using the launch platform alongside Launch Complex 13 for the specific missions that require different trajectories. And we've seen, like, it's not good to be reliant on one single launch pad. So this is very, very fittingly, this would be a second location that they will be able to launch Dauntless from once it becomes operational. So specifically, they'll be launching to sun-synchronous orbits from the Gulf, and so they don't have to deal with issues with range scheduling or going to specific orbits. Like, they have a little bit more flexibility when they're not trying to schedule around all the other launch pads, the congested airspace of Florida, because it's pretty congested airspace even if you are minimizing your disruption of it. Now, I'm sure most of you don't know all that much about Dauntless, which is fair. But you might have heard previously of the company Rocket Crafters. And Rocket Crafters actually became Vaya Space a couple years back. So they're based right down in Cocoa, Florida. They're just like 15 miles south of here. And this is their Dauntless rocket. And what they're doing here is pretty unique. They're going with a hybrid design rather than the liquid design we're used to, or the solids that we're also used to seeing on the side. So they're using a 3D printed high density polyethylene, so literally a plastic, as their fuel and liquid oxygen. And they have a whole bunch of different special things they've done with like spiral injectors they got patents for a few years ago to add to ensure efficient burning of that plastic. Now, we actually did a Europe's Future in Space with another hybrid company that I believe was paraffin based, but this is a 3D printed plastic base for their propellant. Now, they do have some hardware. They have a Pathfinder tank that is under that they have at their facility down here in Cocoa that they're looking at. But this isn't going to be a massive rocket. You can see from that shot there, like that's a pretty large tank, but in the end, this is only going to be a 22.3 meter rocket. Excuse me. So that's like 4 meters taller than Electron. So it's definitely small sat focused. And they will have to wait and see. I think we were talking about this a bit last week with when you have planned rockets, you haven't really proven your launch capabilities. So certain places on the website say that they're going to be doing 500 kilograms to LEO. Others say over 1,000 kilograms to LEO. So if you look at Electron does, I believe, 320 kilograms. So we'll have to see how that all plays out, how the performance they're able to get from the hybrid design here will compare to the liquid design of Electron. So I don't know. I find this stuff pretty interesting. We'll have to wait and see how it goes. But they have a couple unique things as well, in that they've got some partnerships for 3D printing for nozzles and injectors and turbopumps for some really special designs that wouldn't be possible with traditional manufacturing techniques. But right now, as far as what they've shared publicly, there are some engine test type things, but we've seen a lot of renders. I want to see that hardware. I want to see it flying, and that target date for them currently is in 2028. So still a bit of a ways out from a initial launch, but I'm hopeful, and I'm always excited to have more companies trying to compete in spaceflight. We were talking about Pegasus last week and sort of the benefits there of being able to have a dedicated mission for a satellite, so you can get to your exact orbit that you need rather than relying on the rideshare. The rideshares might be cheaper, but you're kind of stuck. You don't have control over your exact launch time, your exact orbit. You get what you get in that case. But I don't know, Max, Sawyer, what do y'all think?
I hope that they can get to the pad, and I hope that they are able to fly, or platform, I guess we could say as well. I was just looking at a map, and in the Gulf, because they're launching sun synchronous, which in other words means they're flying directly south. So, and there's not many places to do that in the world. You can do it from Florida, but you will have to dogleg around the peninsula of Florida. But if you have a platform that you're launching from in the water, it might make more sense to do that in the Atlantic, but their choice is the Gulf. And I'm looking at a map of where they could launch. Now, obviously, Mexico is right there. So there is a gap in between Cancun and Cuba that they could potentially slide right in between. And if they're carrying enough velocity, maybe they can at some point get the vehicle certified to fly over land, just as Starship might if they opt or are able to fly to steeper inclinations from Starbase, because at that point they have to fly over Florida. Um, Long ways away, I'm sure. And it is a rather interesting launch corridor. It's not quite
Yeah.
as restrictive as Starship is from Starbase, because at that point they have to thread Cuba and the Florida Keys and then also mainland Florida as well. But if they're launching sun synchronous, they don't really need to launch, or they don't really need to have much adjustability in where they can fly. They don't need a vast array of flying from 51.6 degrees down to a polar trajectory. They only need to fly south, so they have that going for them. Yeah. So if you're looking here, go up to the Panhandle of Florida, and Pensacola is right on the border of Florida and Alabama, and so there is a gap where they could fly directly in between Cancun and Cuba there as well.
And you think so that'll be a long enough distance from land, perhaps, that even if it's flying over Honduras, it's like far enough up, has enough velocity, like
Right.
flying over the land much later in flight is far less of a risk than the earlier periods in flight.
Correct. And the booster is not exactly going to be going far, I imagine, either. Like we see how far Falcon 9 boosters go offshore for an RTLS burn, or even Starship as well. Like they don't go very far, even though they have to turn around. Even if the first stage of Dauntless needs to go, I don't know, 4, 5, 6, 700 kilometers, there is ample room there for it to use should they need an area for it to come down in. And of course, at that point in flight, the upper stage will hopefully be traveling at a velocity where it will be going directly over land without any risk of making landfall and harming people or wildlife or cattle, as we have seen in Cuba before. One of the first times we tried launching Polar from Florida. Jay's asking me if this is the spot. Zoom out a little bit, Jay.
I think we're going a bit more to the east. Just a bit, maybe.
Yes. So Pensacola there. It's in the kind of middle, top middle there. It's right on the border of Florida and Alabama. If you're directly south of Pensacola, or maybe a bit southeast of Pensacola, that is when, if you want to fly sun synchronous, you can fly directly south and find that gap in between Cancun and Cuba. So makes sense the more we think about it, and also the waters in the Gulf are also a lot calmer than the Atlantic Ocean is more often than not as well. Because obviously this time of year, SpaceX likes to fly southeast because the waters in the northern Atlantic, comparatively to Florida, the waters up by the Carolinas are a lot rougher than the waters down by the Bahamas. So that is why they altered their flight path. And a similar thing as well here. The water is a lot calmer, which makes, I guess, launching a lot easier, and you won't have to spend as much propellant having to correct for any sort of maneuvers or launching off center if you catch a wave at just the wrong time either. So interesting choice. But having more than one launch complex to fly from certainly helps, as Dee was already talking about. We see that with Falcon, and we are hopefully about to see that with Starship as well. More on that later, actually, because there is more Starship Launchpad news.
Now, Max, I have an important question here. 2028, or whenever the first launch from this platform is happening, are we going to go up to Pensacola or wherever ends up being the closest to this launch pad and try to catch this launch from land?
No, I want to be in a boat. What are you talking about? I want to be in a boat.
Very true. Very true. Why? We'll take a boat. All right.
I want to be
Just rent a boat.
I want to see this. Yeah. So, to touch just a little bit more on Vaya, obviously we're focused on like the space side of this. Dauntless is what we're talking about, but they are doing like other explorations for this hybrid technology, including like missile and military uses. I really hope they don't just go the way that ABL went, where they fully pivoted to space or to defense away from space. I really hope they stick this path of continuing to develop space, because I mean, more rockets, more better. I think I've already said that.
Yeah, more rockets, more better, but also the small sat market is dwindling. Because either at this point, I mean, there's a reason why, like Astra and Stoke, and there's a reason why they're all pivoting from small sat to medium launch to compete with Falcon, is because either you are launching rideshare with Falcon or you are launching Electron. Those are really your only two options if you want to launch small. So I hope they can find a market. I hope that they can find a stable customer base, or at least one customer that will sign them for, like, I don't know, 25 flights. But on top of that, they have to get their hardware proven as well. But to do that, you have to get hardware out to the launch pad, wherever whether that be on the platform or whether it be at LC-13.
Yeah, and they've been doing, like, we've seen there's some engine testing stuff that they've released. They've got a test site down in Cocoa to do that sort of testing. I would hope that as a partial result of being a hybrid rocket, they are able to get their costs down dramatically to create real competition, such that they can carve out a space in the market for themselves, regardless of the competition. Like, maybe an Electron's a bit too much. Maybe a Dauntless is affordable, but if they're able to reach the 500 kilogram number or the 1,000 kilogram numbers, that is more than Electron.
Mm-hmm.
Either one of those is more. So
it's true.
Wherever it ends up, hopefully that will be enough to justify their continued presence in the space ecosystem. Because, I don't know, I actually had an opportunity last year to take a look around there, and they've got some really cool stuff happening, and I hope to see them fly. I'm really hopeful.
I think we're all on the same page there.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just answered Resistojet's question I was going to ask of, will this mean their launch costs for companies will be very competitive? And I mean, I think it has to be. The fact that you're talking a totally different method, a totally different kind of payload range, and the fact that I feel like there would be less issues with range when it comes to launching in the middle of the Gulf as opposed to on a launch pad in a busy launch complex.
You're not going to deal with other companies that are... Like, you're not going to deal with a rocket launching every 3 days where you can't launch in that time frame. And yeah, so I really hope. And there's also, it's not like they're trucking in commodities as much. Like,
True.
they've got the HDPE, and so that's like a solid chunk of plastic that
just locks.
that opens up and then locks. Yeah, so that opens up even more opportunities as far as flexibility in launch sites. Perhaps we'll see even more of this. I don't know. I've never seen a rocket launch from the water, and I quite want to.
Wait, so if it's plastic, does that mean that it's basically a 3D printer rocket as opposed to 3D printed, and that as it launches, it'll just be PLA extruding out the back?
It's 3D
not
printing
PLA.
exhaust.
It's so a few snippets. They while I was there, they actually had some really cool, like, offshoots from the 3D printer when they were, like, priming the nozzle, and it's just like these HDPE plastic structures, and they also just have these tubs of HDPE just, like, laying around the factory floor there. That's like, yeah, that's their propellant, but it's also just a plastic, so it's just safe to have it lying around or hold it or whatever.
I mean, that would be cool. And by the way, is this a fixed platform then?
So it's a floating platform, is the plan for Seagate Space's Gateway.
Do we know how it'll get the rocket onto the pad then? Does the launch pad float into the port, they load it on and float it back out, or?
That's a great
Do we
question,
know yet?
actually.
I think we have a lot to wait and see. And even if the plan is for one thing, there's enough time that I think everything could continue to change. So
That is true. Just imagine at the port, instead of offloading a rocket, they're onloading a rocket. Like, oh yeah, here's the next one. Stick it on the pad. Let the pad float over the Gulf. It'll be there in like a week or two, and then it launches.
That'll be a long journey to get from Port Canaveral down around the Panhandle of Florida and get all the way up to Pensacola.
Now, is
Yeah.
that as much of a concern with a hybrid rocket? So, like, if you're dealing with the sea air, like, we know how bad corrosion is. All of our stuff, it gets destroyed from the salty air. So the amount of time that it sits out on the water, like, would be a concern. But at a certain point, like, okay, if a lot of the components for the locks are, like, deeper within the rocket, less exposed than a liquid engine, maybe that's better for literally having it just sit around and withstand in the lead up to launch.
I'll be interested to see how they make that happen. And they also have, as we were pointing out, LZs 1 and 2 obviously were sold off, so SpaceX losing those by the end of the year. But one of the companies that bought them originally was Vaya Space, no? Am I
I believe
remembering that
so.
rightly?
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see if they use that for something too. Anyway, I do have to end the segment with this one comment from Bob Smith. How does one get to orbit? Via space. Via space. That would come on. That was pretty good.
That was reaching
Anyway.
for orbit there, it felt like.
Oh. Yeah, that was a bit of a stretch. But anyway, that was a really good pun, so I had to make sure to mention that. I love when my jokes actually fly and land, which Starliner will technically do just without people.
Yes, the Starliner saga continues, and perhaps it has more life in it than a lot of us may have imagined. So, in a recent statement released by NASA, they have announced that Starliner will fly again, but it will not fly with crew. It'll be strictly for cargo, so that Boeing and the spacecraft can successfully demonstrate all of its on-orbit capabilities, and also to certify its life support and make sure that it can not only orient itself well enough up in orbit, but also deorbit itself successfully and bring itself back. And that was set at net or no earlier than April of 2026. But it's also worth noting that to meet that, there is a lot of pre-flight checks that they have to meet, and they are very, very strict and stringent on them, and they have to get that done rather quickly, because it seems like this kind of came out of nowhere. After Starliner came down after CFT, even the Boeing reps weren't even at the press conference, which didn't bode well. We had no idea what to expect for it. We thought it was either dead or it was going to fly again in like 2+ years, if that, or maybe more, and maybe only fly with strictly commercial crews beyond NASA. But here we are, and they're going to be flying in net April. But perhaps some of the bigger news with the contract itself that NASA has with Boeing and Starliner is that they have reduced the amount of missions to fly from the original 6 down to 4, with those last 2 remaining as open options should the availability and desire be there. Yeesh. We all saw this coming. I think to an extent, the writing has been on the wall in some ways for Starliner for a while, because remember, it's flown 3 times and still has yet to fully complete a fully successful mission. Even OFT2, which arguably is the most successful of the bunch so far, still had its own issues. Remember, on OFT2, before it even launched, there was a big rainstorm that came in, and they had a bunch of water ingress and corrosion on some of the propulsion valves on the service module that they had to literally roll back to the vertical, the VIF, I should say, over at 41. And they couldn't even pinpoint why that happened. All they really did was just swap out the service module and then launch it, and it still had issues with the thrusters on orbit. And then we have the whole crewed flight test debacle with 5 thrusters failing immediately, and the overheating of thrusters and the Teflon seals, and how that was just a constant feedback loop. And also, not to mention the fact that it launched with Butch and Sonny and came back without them. It first flew in 2019, and the commercial crew contracts were signed in 2014. Like, they're out of you're out of excuses. I mean, if you're Boeing, you are out of excuses for Starliner. And the fact that NASA is still trying to breathe life into this program to fly crew to the space station, quite frankly, might be more than they deserve, considering they got almost twice the funding that SpaceX had for Dragon, and Dragon has flown how many crewed flights now? 15 or 16 with Dragon? Like, just crewed. Dragon itself, as Dragon 2 has flown numerous times. Good Lord. This is certainly more than I had expected for the program. But the fact that they are still going to... They're going to still try to fly it. And I think they must see something in Starliner that no other space capsule or crew capsule can provide, even Dragon. But that also begs the question, and I want to bring this up to both you, Dee and Sawyer. Is it too late for a quote unquote redundancy viewpoint on the whole commercial crew program? Is it too late for that? Is it too late for that to be really effective?
You say that at a moment when we don't have redundancy for a crew.
Yeah.
Not even just in the US, but between the US and Russia, there is not redundancy for crew to the ISS.
Yeah.
My take would be no. Starliner's had its issues, very clearly. It is far from a flawless capsule.
Yeah.
But wanting redundancy makes sense. And despite its flaws, okay, if we're going to get cargo delivery, and maybe Starliner can prove itself enough for crew, like, I won't say no to more redundancy here.
But in order for it to be redundant, it has to work. I think that's the thing. Like, redundancy is only a thing if the capsule works. And at this point, after 3 flights and 6 years since its first flight, it hasn't been proven to work. Sawyer, what do you think?
I mean, I almost think the ship has sailed at this point. I mean, like Dee said, it's nice to have, but at this point, it should almost be like an emergency on the shelf backup rather than a primary thing. I'm amazed.
Right.
They still got 4 missions, and obviously we'll have Starliner 1 with cargo rather than crew. They really should just be calling it OFT3 at this point, because it's really a test at that point to make sure all of the fixes have actually been fixed, and you don't need Butch or Sonny to actually take manual control of the vehicle to fix it and get it working so you can dock safely, a la CFT1.
How...
But
So my question would be, how would having it as like an on-the-shelf backup even help? Like, you want it to be proven. That's one of the main things with these. And so get this cargo flight out of the way, get some people flying on it. Like, I think it still makes sense to fly it. Like, it doesn't need as many missions as Dragon, clearly. But having that access and saying, all right, this is good, we're going to set it aside and hope that everything's good when we actually want it. Stuff doesn't just survive with no funding. You know? Like...
But
also influxing a gargantuan amount of funding doesn't always mean it's going to work.
Oh, 100%.
Starliner.
Yeah. I agree.
Yeah. Also, the fact that you already have the Atlas vehicles purchased. You already have the capsule or capsules ready to go. They're reusable for the most part. It's not like you don't have it. I could see them still flying all of the missions and flying them all as cargo with the ability, if needed, if something were to happen, obviously now with Soyuz and with Dragon, that they could switch it to a crew flight if needed. I feel like we lost Dream Chaser. That was supposed to do, what was it, 6 or 7 ISS resupply missions.
Yep.
Well, we happen to have another capsule that can bring up supplies in the meantime to replace that contract. So why not use that for now as a cargo ferry? And if you need it, worst case scenario, then you know it's crew rated and technically can get people up there safely. Down, but get up there safely.
Yes, and also I should also mention in here that in that press release from NASA, there is a quote from Steve Stitch, who is the manager of NASA's Commercial Crew Program. And he said, NASA and Boeing are continuing to rigorously test the Starliner propulsion system in preparation for 2 potential flights next year. 2. So depending on how the flight goes net April, we could have a second one in there, potentially with crew. Also worth pointing out, and thank you for saying it, Sawyer. It was this is still technically going to be Starliner 1, even though it's not going to have crew. So that means Starliner 2 would be the first to fly crew operationally should Starliner 1 go well. But that also begs the question, what if they run into the same issues or similar issues that they've had with the first 3 flights? Like, is it permanently grounded at that point?
I mean, I feel like there comes a point where you have to go, look, this isn't working. It's not you, it's me, and break it up. But I don't know. I mean,
like we don't want this.
I'm torn on this one.
We don't want Starliner to fail. We don't. None of us want this. Like we've all given,
Right.
but we've all given Boeing the whole bunch of crap about how this whole thing has gone, particularly with how CFT was handled. But we don't want Starliner to fail. The more crew capsules that are able to fly crew either up into just an orbit or to the space station, or for future space stations, the better. But they're out of excuses as to why it's not working to this point. After 3 flights and almost twice the amount of funding, when SpaceX is into the teens of successful crewed flights to this point since they first launched crew in 2020. I'm finding it more difficult than ever to justify why it's still allowed. But that being said, Dee brought up a very good point. Like after my opening spiel, we say all this after we've seen just what happened in Baikonur, right? Now it makes a lot more sense. But of course, we can't just predict when these things are going to happen. But that's why you have redundancy. Duh. But imagine if Starliner was our only option right now and Dragon wasn't a thing. Imagine if the lobbyists got their way and SpaceX was never able or was never awarded the contract for Dragon back in 2014. Like, imagine that. We'd be stuck. We'd have nothing to do.
Yeah, we'd be back to the STS-135 to Crew 2 gap at that point. In this case, it would be to Starliner 1 gap. Oh, that would be awful.
Yeah.
I think we have some... Go ahead.
No, you.
No, you.
No, you.
I think we had some guest questions that wanted to jump in with their voice.
I'm sorry, Sawyer. You ignored my question. I think it was last week, maybe it was 2 weeks ago.
Intentionally.
I know you did. But I have a question. Do we need dissimilar redundancy at this point for ISS missions?
It's making a lot less sense, especially the more time passes, because with every day that passes, we grow closer to the day the ISS is going to be decommissioned.
We're a couple years away from ISS being decommissioned, and we're going to be moving to Starship and to New Glenn and to other vehicles. At this point, are we just wasting taxpayers' money?
It's a valid question.
But we've already paid for it at this point, you know? It's not like we're, we'd be wasting money if we didn't do anything with those flights, in my opinion. We paid for it, the rockets are bought, the capsule's bought, the astronauts have been trained for it. Mm-hmm. Although, again, the person who's supposed to fly Starliner 1, Butch Wilmore, is aboard the ISS right now as the pilot for Crew 11 with Dragon. That was an interesting switch, especially because Sawyer Flex years ago when I went to Houston to talk to their commercial crew team, we actually got to go into the Starliner training capsule with Butch, who was talking about how excited he was to actually fly it, and never actually got to fly in it. But I think it's a waste to not use them at this point. That's why even if it is just for cargo with the ability to launch crew,
There's still millions of dollars being spent that is not in that original contract, right? There's NASA support for these missions. There's ISS. That's NASA, but there's support from all of the NASA departments that jump into this as well. And you're still spending more money than was originally budgeted in the
So
contract.
it's more than was originally budgeted, but is so. This will be a bit of a longer spiel. The very end of NASA's statement calls out that certification remains important to NASA's goal of sustained human presence in low Earth orbit, and dissimilar redundancy is essential to supporting the agency's goals and international obligations. So the money is spent for the most part. Like, the budget is allocated for these missions, and a bit more will be spent along the way. We don't have exact numbers on the support, but whether it's sending up the crew or whether it's sending up cargo, the alternative would be not getting back that initial money and then buying a whole new mission with SpaceX. And so then you're paying for 2 full missions. And my take would be, it makes sense to do the Starliner one as cargo only. Make sure that it's safe. If it goes well, then they call out that they'll have 3 crew rotations pending certification. So if it proves itself here, like, you might as well make use of those 4 rather than buying 4 new crew missions with Starliner, or rather than buying 4 new crew missions with Dragon, or rather than buying a mix of cargo and crew missions with Dragon on top of what's been paid for. Like, they're reducing the number of missions here from 6 to 4. And the remaining are open options. So they're already starting to drop off as we're not worrying about these. And I think that they should, I don't know, this seems like the correct step to move forward to give us the chance of having more crew capsules capable of going into space. If something happens with Falcon 9, if something happens with Dragon, we don't have right now Soyuz to launch crew to the ISS. Correct. So then we don't have anyone launching to the ISS. So right now, I'd say it seems more important than ever to ensure that Starliner comes back up.
I have a question that I want to kind of piggyback off of the point Kevin was trying to make, and I think rather effectively. I think there is something that we have wasted here that is more valuable than money, and that is time. We've wasted over a decade now, or I don't want to say wasted. Wasted is the wrong word, but over a decade has now passed since the initial signing of the commercial crew program contracts between SpaceX and Boeing. And 6 years has now passed between the first flight of Starliner and is not yet operational. Time is more expensive than money, especially with our ever-shifting goals in spaceflight, as we are now more than ever advocating for beyond low Earth orbit, a low Earth orbit presence. Ugh. Imagine what we could have done after orbital flight test 2, maybe best case scenario, had we realized, hey, Starliner might not work. Or even, it's completely hypothetical, obviously, but with the same budget that we gave Boeing for Starliner, in the 6 years that's passed in between its first flight at the end of 2019 and now at the end of 2025, imagine what else we could have accomplished in 6 years.
Crew Dream Chaser.
Maybe, dude, honestly, maybe the budget could have been there to shift towards Dream Chaser and make sure it works. I don't know.
I mean, that would have been great. So Alex in the back channel has been getting some of the numbers here. And so with this mutually agreed upon contract modification, Boeing had 768 million cut from their contract value. So that right there is 768 million less dollars going to Boeing for Starliner in the immediate term. So that's already savings right there. The idea that they would just cut it entirely at this point, it just seems... I know people will say sunk cost fallacy, but we don't have an alternative. It's not about the cost, it's about the development. And Starliner is close. It has flown to the ISS. It has returned from the ISS. They're making sure that it's actually there with this extra mission. And then they're actually going to be flying crew. And we're going to have that dissimilar redundancy.
I have a question.
I think is it based on Kevin's message in the back channel?
No, it's for you.
Okay.
Based off of what you've been saying. So obviously we want it to work. We want to get it working. You say it's close to working. Boeing has been saying it's close to working since 2019. At what point do we draw the line?
So my question would be, where does the value come back to NASA? So NASA is immediately about to get value from this. They're getting a cargo delivery to the ISS. That is a useful thing to continue the space program forward. Along with that, that can be the certification for crewed spaceflight. I know there was a lot of disagreement between Boeing and NASA regarding the crew last summer, and NASA went the safe route, and that's perfectly understandable. This is another safe route option of send up cargo. The risk is nowhere near the same. So they can do this test, continue to add value. What benefit does NASA get from just cutting it right now?
Being able to shift priorities and budget elsewhere. The brain space.
Okay. So looking at the numbers, they're at 2.2 billion that's already been paid into the program. And it'll be 3.7 billion is the current value of the contract after that cut.
Right.
That amount will only... Alex, I'll rely on you in the back channel to correct me if I'm wrong. I'm not a numbers person. How much of that would be paid out if they didn't end up flying these missions? It's not like NASA has infinite flexibility to just say, all right, this money is going here instead. They have to follow certain political priorities.
Sure, but at least you have that option. At least it gives you that availability. And given how the current political structure could be shaping up in DC now for a new leader of NASA, who knows where this could go? It's
I want
tough.
to point out.
Go ahead, Sawyer. Go.
I just want to point out really quickly, while we're talking about the numbers here, the fact that OFT2, the second flight test after the first one went so horribly wrong, that was out of Boeing's pocket. It got to a point with a lot of the development where NASA flat out said, we're not paying for it, you messed up, you're going to bite the bullet. So a lot of this money we're talking about that they've spent on these missions and on the spacecraft was not part of the NASA contract, just out of Boeing's basically tail between their legs. We have to.
Well,
but
also 6 flights was also not negotiable, and here they are actually having the flexibility and the power to cut 2 flights off of the contract officially.
And as a result, they're cutting this, what was it, 700 million from the budget. And that, my understanding as a non-expert is that that requires... I want to clarify these things. I don't want to say something incorrectly. I want to be clear with what I'm saying and what I'm confident about and what I'm not. My understanding is that it requires both parties to be in agreement for those modifications. So the fact that Boeing was willing to do that, I think it's a good sign. It's not a great situation, no matter how you spin it. But the U.S. will be in a better space, even after the ISS has deorbited, if both Dragon and Starliner are flying.
That is honestly, that is a really good point. That also brings me to the next question that I want to ask is, what is beyond NASA and beyond the International Space Station? What could be the potential commercial viability for Starliner? The first thing that comes to mind for me is the orbital reef with Blue Origin.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a great space for it. We've got Vast Space Station, which they've got big plans with SpaceX, but especially since even after the ISS, when we're doing the move to commercial stations, which it feels, I don't know. I don't think I've ever talked about this on the Flame Treasure. I don't love that we're not going to have like a national space station, an international space station. We're going to have all these private space stations. I love the private space stations. They should exist too. But given that NASA will be entirely reliant on the commercial market, NASA kind of needs to make that commercial market right now. And they are working to make that the case. They want to have Starliner able to fly their crew to whatever commercial space station. They want to have Dragon be able to fly their crew to the Vast Space Station or whatever other commercial space station, the Axiom Station. They want those options. And NASA's already somewhat in the position of fully reliant on SpaceX. So NASA doesn't want to be that way for another decade. They don't want to be relying on, okay, now do we have to go to another commercial partner, do a new bidding process, start this whole thing over from scratch, which my take would be maybe Dream Chaser. But anyway, like they don't want to start that over from scratch. They have progress here towards having redundancy for crew spaceflight. NASA was confident enough to put crew on it on the way up. And that did not go great, to be very clear. I don't want to seem like I'm just defending Boeing. Boeing's messed up. Boeing has had to pay as a result of their mistakes.
Literally and figuratively here.
Literally and figuratively. But if NASA is stuck fully reliant on SpaceX for low Earth orbit perpetually, or near-term perpetually, I don't know. Like, that doesn't seem like a position NASA would want to be in. Like, that redundancy is such an important thing. And when it's not NASA, like, operating vehicles, they don't have quite the same control and flexibility.
No,
like they have a lot of control and flexibility, but they don't have the same amount of control and flexibility. And so having two partners opens up a ton of opportunities. Sorry, I think I've rambled.
No,
But
you're good. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Go ahead, Sawyer. Go.
No, I was just mentioning stations, but Gateway. One thing I wanted to just also mention, and obviously we talk a lot about Boeing, but there are other companies that are affected big time by this. ULA, for one, think about it. They shut down production of Atlas V. There are no more Atlas Vs being built. What is there is there. There's less than a dozen flights left now of it, and 6 of those were set aside for Starliner. So if they're now only flying 4 times, what do you do with those other 2 boosters? It's not like you can really repurpose them that much for, say, Amazon Leo type deal.
We'll call it Kuiper.
Yeah, because those only have 2 solids and no fairing. Just throwing that out there too. How many other companies this affects? In addition to NASA and the ISS, you've got its launch vehicle there, and I see people saying, well, can they certify it on Vulcan? That hasn't happened yet either.
Yeah, Vulcan is its own can of worms right now. The Space Force has already confirmed that they're not going to be flying anything on Vulcan for a bit. There's still some more to work out there. But also, sticking with Atlas, because the N22 variant, which is what is needed to fly Starliner, they would need to restart fairing production, and that might cost more than it's ever worth, and ULA might not want to do that. So at that point, you also don't have the 4-meter fairing anymore because that stopped flying way back in 2022. So you have Atlas boosters just sitting, waiting for Starliner. Like there's nothing else that they could possibly be mated to. Like you can't just retrofit a fairing from Vulcan because the diameters are way different. And you can't. Maybe Dream Chaser could fly without fairings, but that might happen on Vulcan if that ever does happen. It's a headache no matter how you look at it, and that's why I guess we're rambling on about it as much because there's so much to dive into here. It's like an iceberg.
It really is.
It really is. And no matter how you try and turn the iceberg, no matter what angle you try to look at it with, there are this many positives. There is this much going against Starliner right now compared to how much is going for it. But what could go for it is really valuable and really important. So finding the balance between that is incredibly difficult. And even just trying to think through it now, it's a pickle.
Yeah. This is an iceberg and Starliner is Titanic.
Oh, God.
Here's an interesting question I want to bring up because I see someone posted the numbers in the back channel. How many extra flights from the original contract has Dragon flown for crew to the ISS? Because, I mean, the money may not be going to Boeing, but there is still going to Dragon and SpaceX with their added flights, right? I believe they're scheduled total for 14 operational flights as of 2022 is when that was extended to. And also keep in mind, the one set to launch in February is Crew 12. So that's only 3 more contracted with the extension, but still an extension.
But again, they could also extend the extension, for all we know. And especially if Starliner is not proven next year, they will only have Dragon. And I'm sure at this point, SpaceX wants to part ways with Dragon at this point as quickly as possible and shift to Starship, but we are still years out from that, though. But Dragon is getting its use in, and it is proven to be an absolute workhorse when it comes to human spaceflight. Just not only for human spaceflight, but also for cargo as well, because they're at now like what? So 32 or 33 commercial CRS missions now between Dragon 1 and Dragon 2.
I think so. I'm trying to remember in my head the last one what it was.
Yeah, because they were originally 33. Thank you, Jay. There were 20 initially scheduled for Dragon 1, which is the OG Dragon that we all know and love and still kind of miss. And then the previous 13 were on Dragon 2, which is of about the same design as Crew Dragon, just with differing life support measures, because obviously there isn't a crew on board to look after. And then also the trunk is different as well, with a smaller, I think it has a smaller solar array and also only two fins on it instead of 4 that we would get on the Crew Dragon. But again, that is a lot of work for Dragon. I'm sure SpaceX is going to be happy to sign those contracts and receive that funding. But it's also not their fault that they are the sole successful human spaceflight provider currently in the U.S. It's not their fault. D. Sawyer, help me out here. I'm honestly lost for words at the moment. Just trying to think through it all.
Yeah, it's a lot, and like, it's not that I don't understand your position. Like, is it even worth it? Like, I've definitely asked. Like, is Starliner even worth it at this point?
Yeah.
And I just keep going back to that reliability. And yeah, SpaceX, like, they did well with the commercial crew program as a result of creating a vehicle that worked.
Yeah.
And they have been able to I was going to say they've been able to succeed as a result, but like they've flown so many missions as a result. But I think they would have been a success one way or another without the commercial crew program. I thought it was like a bit of an overstatement. Anyway, like, one way or another, we want that redundancy in space. And so I would just say, like, what possible path forward to redundancy do we have? SpaceX is so focused on Starship at this point. Mm-hmm. It feels like Dragon's just like, yes, and we still do this. And it feels like that's the thought it gets almost. And I don't know. Do you really want your access to low Earth orbit in space to be the second focus of a company? I don't know. That might also be an overstatement.
I mean,
because again, Dragon is so successful. It's done so well.
Yeah. Dragon, it's not like Dragon is a second focus. I mean, they have a whole separate division specifically for Dragon because the Dragon has to work, and it has. Has it been a perfect vehicle to this point? No vehicle ever is. Nor is the space shuttle. I think is the best example of that. But tough to say. I'm just thinking through all of it now. It is entirely accessible. It really is. No matter how you look at it, it's just filthy, murky waters. You can't just trudge through it without getting filthy. It is really unfortunate. I think that's probably just the most simple TLDR way to put it.
It feels wrong.
It does.
So that I'm clear. It feels wrong defending a capsule that has done so poorly to this point. I don't like it, but I think it is still the correct move. So I don't know.
I feel like
I see lots of people in chat that are like every possible opinion on this matter.
Yeah.
It is it's a tough thing.
I feel like in this circumstance, I feel like NASA's feet are tied and Boeing's hands are tied, and SpaceX is just kind of wandering around, wondering what is going to happen from this whole ordeal. Same with the rest of the aerospace sector. You're going to get dirty like that. The waters are too murky at this point, unfortunately.
Don't have EJ here, so I can't start singing "Dirty Water." The Boston related song.
Unfortunately.
Oh well. Yeah, forward and hang on. Yeah. Hey, did someone call me? Hey, forward shuttle.
Long March 5.
Kerbal. Long March 5.
Jeez, Sawyer. Needed that.
I always keep the EJ glasses nearby.
Needed that because this was getting kind of dark for a bit. I need a bit more positivity in the conversation.
Future so bright, you got to wear aviators.
Oh, jeez.
Oh boy, yeah, my EJ impression. I know it needs work. I'm sorry. I'm from New York, okay? I don't do this Boston stuff. Fine, Dunkin' Donuts, pack the car and have it yard. How's that?
I'm not from Boston.
Yes, you're right. I still have. Do I still have it? Yes. Shuttle book. Here we go. Yeah. Oh. Is that what EJ does?
Something like that.
By the way, where is EJ? He's actually celebrating Thanksgiving with family, was my understanding. You know, the whole American holiday thing.
As you do.
Yeah. EJ, what are your thoughts on it?
Shuttle to
yeah. Yeah. Someone help me. D.
What am I helping with? Sorry, I was
Shuttle derived problem. I don't know. Just get me out of this EJ bit.
Well, I know one way you could get out of it, Sawyer, is if you look at the preview, there is something queued up for you, kind of ready to go, and you're the best at transitions. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge.
Nah, I'm good. I don't want to sell some awesome merch that's on sale for Black Friday. Speaking of which, that's a good idea. How about we do that? AVP. It is Black Friday and Cyber Monday here in the US, so we have our whole Cyber Week 2025. We have some of our classic favorites that are on sale for the holidays. So if there's one of those where it's like, ooh, I loved that print, or one of those shirts that you've seen us wearing all the time, and you're kind of like, you know what? I should get one of those. I've been seeing them. I wish they were a little cheaper, but we have some of our classics on sale now. You can see there some of those shirts, some of the hats, a lot of the classic designs, the Concrete Way to Go, which is still one of my favorite shirts, some of our other metal prints and posters from some of the earlier Starship flights. All of that is in there. And then don't forget, we also still have our holiday selection that is out. Holiday selection doesn't necessarily get the same discount, but the quicker that you order it, the quicker that you are able to hopefully get it for holiday wrapping and things like that. including the shot glasses, the pants, the sweaters, and the new NSF calendars, of which we have both the KSC one and the Starship one. Sorry, KSC, the General Spaceflight one, and the Starship one as well. So you can get one, you can get both, either one. I've looked at the pictures in them both. They're absolutely spectacular, and they are available, as you can see there, as a pre-order, so that you can ring in 2026 with some beautiful prints. So you can either get some of the classics at a discount, or you can pre-order some of these for next year too. So all of that is at shop.nasaspaceflight.com. There is a link that is being spammed many, many times in the chat on YouTube that will link you right to all of our holiday deals. Nice. Hey, look, it's Max. Hi, Max.
Hi, Sawyer. Right here, too.
Yeah, there's two of you on screen now. Apparently, you're a bestseller, Max.
Oh, am I?
Yeah, see? Look, it's you. You're a bestseller.
Oh, okay.
Also, I just saw someone ask, where's my Starship Mankini? And I love that I hate it. I hate that I love it. No. But, I mean, everything is based off of real photos in the sweatpants, the pajama pants. Those are real photos from Starship of the booster and of the TPS. The number of jokes I can make, but I'm not going to make them. Yeah, there they are. There's the super heavy pajama pants that is made with an actual photo.
The tile pants do not protect you from re-entry. Fair
They
warning.
do not. Disclosure.
Don't make the jokes. Don't make the jokes. Anyway, Dee, I know there were some questions that you wanted to answer specifically.
Yeah. So Wolf480 in chat was wondering if SpaceX's success at NASA's fixed price contracts is an exception to the rule, and if maybe they're proven to be a bad idea. I feel kind of bad reading that, because I don't know. I love, like, the idea of firm fixed price contracts makes sense, and it can obviously prove to be a huge success. Cost plus also don't make sense.
It doesn't.
But is SpaceX the exception to the rule here?
I mean, when you build bad hardware, that's not necessarily an exception to the rule. It's just you don't build the best hardware. So I think that's not that isn't a mark against fixed price contracts, because that makes a lot more sense when you're dealing with private equity. But no, I think when you just build bad hardware, there are consequences all the way around. So I think that's where I stand on it.
That's fair. Sawyer, and then I'll provide my sort of take.
I mean, going through history, cost plus has never really been great. It always ends up with the plus more than the cost. I feel like with fixed contracts, I mean, you kind of force them within a bubble, and if you can't meet that money, well, that's on you to make up for it and get it done. Kind of what ended up happening to Starliner anyway, even though it was cost plus. I think SpaceX is the exception to the rule in this case.
SpaceX is the exception to the rule?
I mean, the other way around.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. So, I don't know. My thought is, like, the cost plus contracts are guaranteed to end up costing more.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're never going to be able to optimize as much as you need if you're always paying all the costs and extra, and that only incentivizes the contractors to spend as much as they possibly can on every single component. It makes it literally less valuable for them to optimize their own costs. With that said, are firm fixed price contracts always the call? I don't know, because when the money isn't enough and that contractor doesn't have the money, are you just going to then go to a different contractor and all that cost is literally sunk? Or are you going to have some flexibility to provide the necessary funding within reason and oversight to get that initial contract done? And I don't know. I thought this was a good question. I don't think cost plus is the way to go. I think fixed price is overall the far, far, far better option.
Yeah.
But I think there are trade-offs, and there does need to be some flexibility in certain cases to make sure that everything isn't stagnated as soon as that initial money runs out. There needs to be some flexibility, but it doesn't need to be a cost plus.
As with
But Eric
I think,
Fraser.
yeah.
Oh, go ahead.
I think with everything, as with everything in life, there's never going to be a perfect answer. There's never going to be, especially when you were dealing with government on one side of the equation or the other. So yeah, I think cost plus. I remember when Bill Nelson was testifying in front of Congress, and he was practically banging that. Not really, but you could see how frustrated he was with the cost plus contract model in front of Congress, especially when talking about Artemis, because we know how much of a runaway Artemis has been in that regard, in both its delays and cost overruns.
Speaking of Boeing,
yeah, right,
Oh.
right, because they are
Like-
the primary contractor for the Space Launch Vehicle. There, like many things, there is a lot going against the cost plus model, especially when you are talking about private equity on the private side. So, proven that it doesn't work, at least in the time frame that is required, because there's always flexibility there, because they have to delay. Cough. That's why SLS has delayed so long. Cough. One of the reasons, but tough. But I think fixed price contracts on the private sector are certainly, I think, are the move, because at that point, like you were saying, Dean Sawyer, you're backing them into a corner. And spaceflight, as Peter Beck has said as well on record, spaceflight and aerospace is one of the few sectors that once you sign a contract and you have an agreement, you have to deliver or you die. Your business model and your company dies. And certainly SpaceX would have bit the bullet as well had NASA not given them the original CRS contract back in the day for Falcon 9. And look at them now. So
Eric Fraser is one of our mods with a really interesting question in chat, saying the key question here is, would a cost plus contract have resulted in us having a working Starliner 6 years ago?
no.
so I think... so there are two questions I saw in chat that I want to tack onto that. I'm not saying yes. To be very clear, I'm not saying that we would have been all happy. There was one. I'm trying to find it. There was one that said basically that cost plus would be okay in certain instances when tied with strict deadlines. And there was another one, cost plus is fine for future cutting edge projects, but access to low Earth orbit and rockets in general aren't cutting edge anymore.
That's a hot take. That's a hot take.
Yeah. I wanted to read those out because I think they're important takes. Like, we've been going to low Earth orbit for so long. And so I think it's an okay... I understand saying access to low Earth orbit isn't cutting edge. Like, in some ways, especially depending on the way which you're accessing low Earth orbit, I think that's fair. I don't know. There's so many different paths that are interweaving that could be discussed here, but I don't know.
But just a reminder, when we're talking about timing here, it really is two paths diverged. The first flight test for Crew Dragon, Demo 1, I believe was March of 2019.
Yep.
The first orbital flight test, which was supposed to be the only orbital flight test for Starliner, was December 2019. Both of them were on track for about the same time. The in-flight abort test for Crew Dragon was January of 2020. So they were all neck and neck at that point. they were right on target. They were right where they needed to be. And then one continued onward and one had an incorrect clock and had to come back. So it's interesting to see the moment where they split. And after that, they just, I don't know what happened, but they couldn't recover from there. People forget how tightly knit they were, how it looked like we were going to start having two. And the argument was who was going to go first, SpaceX or Starliner.
I think we also have to factor into the equation as well that SpaceX had a full-on capsule failure as well after DM1. They were out on the Cape side testing the thrusters, and they had some fuel go where it wasn't supposed to, and they had a rather large kaboom, and they lost the entire capsule, and that was going to be the capsule that was supposed to launch the DM2 mission. So one could argue SpaceX had more to overcome, at least initially, with losing an entire capsule. So they were neck and neck, but I would argue SpaceX had a bigger hill to overcome, at least initially, on top of the obvious funding deficit, at least per the contract.
Yeah, it's interesting to see how it split off so far and the difference between SpaceX, Crew Dragon, and Starliner here.
I feel like we could talk about this forever, like for literal hours. I honestly
marathon stream talking about cost plus contracts versus firm fixed price. Let's
Starliner
do it all
versus
Black Friday
Dragon, SLS versus New Glenn versus Starship. Like we could go on.
And 8,000 people just left the chat. Oh boy. Let me thank some people here really quickly. Alexander Sterling saying, appreciate it's a new setup for you. Bravo. Thank you very much. Lords of Random, Starliner with Vast, question mark? I mean, we kind of hit on this, but I think one of the critical things to remember is that the Vast Haven, so the initial Vast space station, is heavily reliant upon Dragon in the fact that it is going to be using a lot of Dragon's life support systems to assist with it. The carbon dioxide scrubbers will be the same ones that Dragon uses and will be brought up by Dragon, if I remember that correctly.
So they will have additional, my understanding is, filters with the station to swap out the ones in Dragon, and they're relying on Dragon's life support system for all of Haven 1. This is their initial smaller space station before they move on to the bigger one. But yeah, like you were saying, I did not mean to interrupt there. It's very Dragon specific for Haven 1.
Yeah, and you say it taps off of the life support system for Dragon. No, it literally uses all of the life support from Dragon. Like that is its life support system.
Yep.
Starliner would have to be optimized for it, and in theory, I think it could. Obviously, it uses the same docking adapter, and like it could be made to fit it, but I don't foresee that happening.
Yeah, I don't either. Again, like we were pointing out earlier, I think the better option would be something like an orbital reef or any other commercial station using it besides Vast. So,
agreed.
Or Starliner to Gateway. Two things that'll never happen.
Gateway's never going to happen. You don't think so? That's a whole other topic in itself, Sawyer. That wasn't on the docket for tonight.
No, Lunar Gateway was not on the docket, but yeah, I doubt that thing's going to happen at this rate. I mean, sure, there's stuff being built, but I mean...
Yeah, it's not. There's no way. I wanted to, but I don't know. Anyway.
Oh gosh, that's a whole other can of worms. Which is something you cannot buy in the shop, but Susan getting a couple items that you can buy in the shop, saying, love NSF, big fan, thanks for all the hard work. Thank you. And looks like taking advantage of some of those sales as well for our Black Friday / Cyber Monday / Cyber Week deals there. So thank you very much for that. And then I do love the title on that one, Certified Space Coast Moment, as we have the almost entire Space Coast team here, sans Julia and Jerry. I love it. Speaking of the Space Coast, you know what our last topic is. It's always Starship. But since we have the Cape team, I think it's time that we discuss some Cape Starship news that just came out today.
Like right before the show, like within 20 minutes of the show, I think.
Yep. You can see there we have the environmental impact statement, the EIS final. We have discussed the draft, but now we have the final thing. Dee, I believe you had some of the highlights from this one?
So there's not all too much that has changed, and I can't talk on this too extensively. We did a far deeper dive into the environmental impact statement when it was a draft. But this is pretty much what we've seen previously. So from 37, we can expect to see 76 launches, 76 booster landings, 76 ship landings, 76 booster static fires, and 76 ship static fires a year, which seems
That-
crazy.
Yeah.
That is absolutely mind-boggling, and the goal is to have it up and running in 2026. To somehow have all of that up, built, functioning, ready, and ready to support things in 2026. So sometime next year.
That seems
Yeah, that's optimistic. Had coming
SpaceX
online.
time.
I think for 39A, it's 100% going to see activity next year and a launch. I think launch is going to happen at some point, probably mid to late summer next year, if they can get the ball rolling with the V3 booster predicament that they have started out with at Massey's last week. Yeah, 37, I think will have the best chance of coming online probably sometime in 2020, like early 2027. But the tower segments for the first launch, I think it's the launch tower, for the first launch tower are already staged and borderline complete over at Hangar X. I think they were waiting for that environmental assessment to be completed before they could actually begin construction and building the actual footprints to actually get those modules moved over that way. So we haven't flown it a bit, and hopefully we are going to be flying again soon. But that I think is going to be the first step. I think they have been continuing to level the ground that they have over there. That pad is borderline unrecognizable compared to what it used to be for Delta 4. But they are moving rather quick. I think quicker than I probably thought they would personally. But the tower segments are borderline ready to roll over. So give it maybe a year and change afterwards, and maybe we'll have the first complete tower. But maybe they will ramp up production of those tower segments too at the same time. We'll have to wait and see. But that is going to be one of their primary launch facilities from the Cape side, at least, because they're having 2 launch towers, 2 catch towers, an entire tank farm over there. It's going to be an absolute Starship madhouse over there. So I don't think we're going to have the same views that we will have for LC-39A. Cross your fingers, that might change. Who knows? But Starship is coming to Florida, and it's building up momentum at a rate that I don't even think we expected here in Florida. We've been talking about this, D. We've been talking about this for years, literal years.
Oh, yeah.
We knew this was coming, but we didn't have any idea how it was going to look in terms of momentum and on the paperwork side as well. It's coming together really fast, and we know that's how SpaceX moves. We know that's how Starship moves, even in the faces of the worst happening to it, i.e., losing a booster at Massey's the day after it rolls out. So it's all gonna happen rather quick. I think quicker than most people expect, and I think we can honestly expect the first launch from LC-39A mid to late summer next year, hopefully.
I mean, the other interesting thing to note from the summaries that I've seen so far, again, this came out so close to air that I haven't had time to read through all of it. It's very vague in its description of catch tower versus launch tower. It doesn't really seem like they're specified specifically, so it'll be interesting to see how that works out design-wise. And again, there's supposed to be the 2 pads at 37 already, and in theory, 2 catch towers-ish, so...
As you can see, there's some... Yeah, go ahead, D. Go.
I was just going to say, it'd be really interesting, because obviously they're going to be doing the testing on all those pads as well. It'd be interesting to see if somehow they can work those into even more useful towers, if they're using the catch towers alongside the launch towers in the same day. Like,
Yeah.
that's, I don't know. This is going to be really cool to see. Well, there's so much happening all at once. We're absolutely going to take a much deeper dive into everything in here and keep a look out around the Space Coast to see any hardware movement, as we have been, to see when 37 starts really getting built up, because that'll be an exciting day. Only more exciting will be when we actually see Starship fly.
I know. And the fact that they have specified there that they're going to be static firing the boosters on the stand there, well, obviously they're going to be building both Super Heavy and Starship itself in Gigabay, which is currently being constructed right now and rising fast, as you can probably see from our Space Coast Lab 24/7 cameras over at the press site. They're going to be initially shipping them here from Florida, but I think the biggest takeaway, at least initially, is that the first samples of boosters that we're going to see here are not going to be static fired in Starbase, but rather here. I think it makes sense. I don't know where they would test or static fire ships. They might have those fired over at Massey's before having them shipped over, and then it might make the most sense. Even the ones that are initially shipped over and proofed in Starbase, to have them static fired here and have that final checkout as well. So I think that is also an insight as to what their test campaign could be, not only in the near term but the long term. I would love to know. Well, I think first and foremost, I want to see how a static fire looks on this new launch mount, because it's not going to look anything like it was for Pad 1 with that bidirectional flame diverter as we have seen before. It's all happening. Yeah, I sound like a broken record. I know it's happening fast. This is all coming together really, really quickly. And I think the next time we fly, we might see all of the actual tower segments for the first tower at 37 done, and we might see more being staged to be built, if not being built already. They might be... Obviously, they need more launch mounts over there, so I can almost guarantee that they are also staging hardware inside that tent where we saw the first one being built here, or second one, technically, for Pad A, and they're probably already in work on the second one. So, exciting times ahead, hopefully.
Yeah, and we kind of saw it a bit there on the screen, but for people that don't know, there was someone asking, where is the Florida version of the Star Factory? And if not, what will they use in its place? So
we call it Star Factory 2.0. It is basically going to be mated directly to Gigabay to the east. Similar-ish to how Gigabay and Star Factory are going to be in Starbase, but the Star Factory here in Florida is going to be about 1.5 times bigger. Yes, bigger. Star Factory here is going to be larger than the one currently in Starbase, which is already gargantuan. So that'll be stationed out to the west of the complex. And I think in some of our images as well, we can see some land where that will eventually be cleared for it, if it hasn't already. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's been a long week. But yeah, it'll be mated directly to Gigabay as we see it in Florida, directly off to the west, and that will make for super easy hardware transitions from barrel sections into the base to being stacked, and for everything else that they want to build between Hangar X and Hangar X2 and everything else in between the yards there as well. So it'll be very near. It'll all be, everything will be all around Hangar X and Hangar X2, at least as far as we understand it for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, when we talk about that, I don't know if people know exactly what we're talking about. So Hangar X and Hangar X2, it's off of a road once you're inside Kennedy Space Center. So it's on KSC property. In other words, public can't just drive up to it.
Correct.
Off a road called Roberts Road, which is why we've been continually calling it Roberts Road up until now that we're basically, getting to the Gigabay and their Star Factory 2.0.
Correct.
That area is kind of like their production site in a way. It is just southwest-ish of the VAB. It is pretty much due south of the 3-3 end of the shuttle landing facility / launch landing facility, etc. And it will actually, as a result of where it's located, they've been widening the roads so that they can get a transporter through to have a fully, to have all of the Starship parts roll out from there onto the main causeway,
Yep.
and then down in front of the vehicle assembly building down to 39A.
Correct. We have been seeing that work going on for months now, and we always wondered, like, why are they doing this? Now it makes total sense, especially considering the fact that the first booster and ship articles are going to be barged over and then unloaded directly over at the turn base and right in front of our freaking cameras at the press site. It's going to be incredible. So, yeah, lots happening at KSC to fit the hardware, because the hardware is absolutely gargantuan. But Hangar X and Hangar X2 and on Roberts Road as a whole, at least right now, is not so much a production facility as it is a refurb facility. We think in Hangar X2 that is where that the current Starlink payloads are being handled and stacked and enclosed in the fairings as we see them roll out from there. Then Hangar X, the original Hangar X is where they have their launch control. Excuse me. That is also where Falcon 9 refurbishment also takes place as well. Also at X2, can't forget, that is also where they are building actually the thermal protection system tiles for Starship, as they call it, the bakery. That was originally moved from, hey, there's the bay over there from the press site cameras. How about that? Rising fast. It's getting taller every day, I swear. They're on, like, I think, level 3 or 4 now. And the third... So are those 4 cranes up now? Or I can't see. It's too dark. Yeah, lots happening. And Hangar X will eventually become Starship production, but it's not currently Falcon 9 production, because those are built in Hawthorne, tested in McGregor, and then either shipped out to Vandenberg or here at the Cape.
Yeah, the production rate, I mean, even just from the what's it called? The flyover that we were showing video of shortly, a short time ago, that was about a month ago, and already it looks so different in terms of how much it's grown. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But yeah, and apparently all 4 of the cranes are now active. When we flew over, there were 2, and now all 4 cranes are up and running to build it. But the main focus was to get one of the sides built up quicker, so that once they do get hardware from Starbase, because they will be barging it over, that they have somewhere to put it once it gets here. So I guess that brings us to the question then of, when Starship launch from the Cape, when do we think from 39A, and when do we think we'll see 37 up and running now that we have that EIS finalized?
I think mid to late summer next year for 39A, and we'll see probably the first flight mid to late 2027 for Launch Complex 37. Hopefully sooner, but I think given the current timelines and how things are going, in the current workforce, I think that's where I stand now.
Yeah, I was going to say start of Q3 for 39A, and trying to... I can't begin to put an estimate on 37 at this point, because who knows? Like, will they focus on just getting one launch tower there first? Or are they going to just build all the launch towers, all the catch towers? Are they going to build everything at once before they start launching out of 37? I think either would be reasonable, because you don't want to really have the cranes having to move regularly for those static fires.
Yep.
If they have all the infrastructure there, if they can just do one after another, then the crews are very aware of what the challenges are with each specific thing. Maybe they can speed up their timeline, and rather than getting one tower going a bit sooner, they can just have all 4 going just a bit later, but get that rate up a lot faster.
I mean, I think, yeah, we'll definitely see Starship in 2026 from 39A. I think it's going to be later than we think. Unfortunately, I think it's going to be end of the year.
Oh, no.
Sawyer.
Come on.
What?
I was expecting a fight sound, because, look,
Ryan Weber's away. Someone's got to do it.
I was gonna say, I think Sawyer's inner Webby is coming out.
Are you becoming like a West Coast fan or something?
Yeah,
absolutely
Sawyer.
not.
How dare you?
Did you see how many times Transporter 15 delayed?
Are you not team East Coast, West Coast?
You're not, D. What are you talking about?
East Coast
I make
supremacy
the
for
jokes
the win.
occasionally, but we have to launch early next year. I really think it's going to be a huge moment. Like, we're not waiting on the Gigafactory to be able to launch. Like, we just need the pad. they're making progress there. The limiting factor will be primarily be the V3, getting
gonna
that
say, yeah, you
flown
need
and
a-
tested ahead of time.
Yeah.
Yeah, you need a booster that isn't going to explode when you even just do basic testing before you put engines on it.
This is very true.
Ship hasn't been tested yet. We don't know when that flight's going to be, and I'm sure as they use Pad 2 and realize, oh, we need to make some adjustments possibly over to 39A's pad, I just think it's all going to keep pushing it back and back, and then when they finally get one that's built and ready, the fact that they still have to ship it, and that's going to take a while, and then you're doing things for the first time at the Cape. This is hardware. Much of it has been there for 3 years already, and hasn't really been used.
Just let us be optimistic, okay?
No,
Okay.
Not going to happen.
Okay, but also...
no soup for you.
But also, I think SpaceX themselves, like way back at the beginning of the year, they publicly said that they wanted to target 2025 for the first launch of Starship from Florida. Obviously didn't happen.
They've had some booms.
They've had some booms and things not go their way, unfortunately. And genuinely, I really feel for them. It was a really rough year for Starship, and unfortunately still continues to be. But a lot of the building blocks are currently in place to actually realistically predict and support a Starship launch from Florida in 2026. Whereas we couldn't really say that last year, the year before, and especially the year before that, when the tower was first going up. So everything's there, almost everything but the vehicle, obviously.
Yeah, that.
Which
They
you
don't
kinda
need a
the
vehicle.
important bit.
They
No,
can
you
just
don't
fly
need- no, no,
Starship
no, no,
without
no.
a Starship.
And they're all holograms anyway, Sawyer. What are you talking about?
Oh gosh.
Oh my
You're
gosh.
gonna bring out the problems in chat.
Yeah, we're all living in a simulation. I get it, but also people saying that I am not resigning from East Coast, Best Coast. I agree. East Coast is still best coast.
East Coast
people are telling me to
supremacy.
wash my mouth out, but I mean, yeah, there's still all of that to go through, and you're talking hardware that's been sitting in the salt air for 3 to 4 years now. By the time this thing actually gets used, untouched.
Yep.
You don't think they're going to find stuff that needs to be worked on? And yes, don't get me wrong, SpaceX fixes things fast. We saw that after Ship 36, how quickly they were still able to get the next flight out. But, I mean, it's different here at the Cape. And from what it seemed like, again, just from the summaries I've been able to see of the EIS, they are going to be hiring a lot more people to work at the Cape. It is going to be a round-the-clock deal, 24/7, as many people as they can to get it up and going. But you can have as many people as you want. If things aren't ready to go for those people, I don't think we're seeing 37 until 2027, and I think 39A is going to be Q4.
Okay. I mean, to your prior point, Sawyer, just for example, the chopsticks at LC-39A, we still have yet to see them move up and down since they were first mounted to the tower. We've seen them move in and out before, like very few times, but we still have yet to actually see them move up and down. We can see from previous outings, whether it be for camera setup or just driving by the pad before, there is a ton of scaffolding around them, and whether that be rust clearing or getting ready to shorten the chopsticks in a similar manner to what they have in Starbase already with Pad 1's chopsticks, we'll have to wait and see. But there is still a lot of hardware that we have to see move and make ready. But those chopsticks have been sitting there for a long time.
Yeah, I mean, and also the rest of the infrastructure too. You've got all the cabling, all the wiring, all of the lines that haven't had propellant run through them yet. All of the tank farms that have still yet to really been fully activated and tested and all of that. There is still so much on the testing side alone that needs to be done before you even get a vehicle out of the pad that, again, I say we haven't seen, but we can only see as much as we can, with our 24/7 cams from the Cape, as opposed to being able to literally drive up next to it on the road in Starbase.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's not, we don't have anywhere near the freedom that, as you were just saying, that we do in Starbase in terms of being able to cover everything that we can. Government facility. The public cannot just come here unless you are escorted on a bus by a tour from the KSC Visitor Complex, or you are one of the lucky few to actually be badged and enter the space center, as we are very lucky too. But even then, we can't just go driving off to the launch pads and look at whatever we want, because not only is it government property, it is an active DoD, or Department of Defense facility, and that will actually bring prison time if you happen to capture anything that you are not supposed to, that is covered by law. There's a lot more going against coverage here in Florida, but the fact that we still have the press site at all is a miraculous thing. And the public can still get tours around the launch pad, whether you're, well, I shouldn't say of the launch pad. You're on a bus going around the launch pad, and also to the LC-39 gantry, which gets you a great view of Pad A, Pad B, 41, 40, and going down the line. Yeah, but nowhere near as much freedom compared to Starbase. And it is a shame, but I also fully understand it. But the fact that we're even able to be here at all is an incredibly huge privilege.
It really is, yeah. It's one of those where there are certain spots where we are allowed to shoot and certain spots where you are not allowed to. Obviously, there are some people who contribute to L2 on the forums, which if you're not a member of L2, it's one of those things that you can get from shop.nasaspaceflight.com. Good holiday gift too. But it's one of those things where there are people that will post some of those photos, and you'll see a lot of the progress and a lot of people tracking it. Also, sometimes people, like you said, who go on the KSC bus tour will upload their photos there, so you can really get a good idea of all the progress going on. So definitely check out the Starship section in there if you haven't. But yeah, if you just go on one of the tours, you'll get a rough understanding. But it's hard to really track the day by day, I should say, as we do down at Starbase.
But it's a lot easier also to do that at the Kennedy Space Center than it is for the Cape Canaveral Space Force Station, because the issues that I just mentioned aren't so much an issue for KSC. They can be if you venture into the wrong area. But that mostly pertains to the Space Force base, because it is, again, an active Department of Defense facility, Space Force linked to Air Force, and there is a lot of stuff happening there that they do not want the public to see for national security reasons. So the coverage over there becomes an even touchier subject. So we do everything that we can to cover whatever we can from publicly accessible areas. So, yeah, gonna be tough, but it's not going to be the end of the world. And who knows? We might get more access to some spots in general with the Space Force at some point in the future. I don't know. Just putting that out there.
And the government's open. Yeah, hint, hint, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, Space Force. Hi, it's NSF. We'd love to put cameras places. Thanks.
Yes, that'd be great.
Here's a really interesting question from Henry Slack. Which becomes operational first? Slick 37 or the updated Pad 1?
Updated Pad 1, for sure.
You're very confident on that.
I mean, there's a lot less to for 37. You have to rebuild you have to build the entire pad, whether it be, even if you want to just get a singular tower online with the flame trench and tank farm and everything to support a singular vehicle launch from there. All you have to do at Pad 1 is revamp the tank farm a little bit, maybe link it to Pad 2's tank farm, or maybe they're both going to support both pads at the same time, and redig a flame trench, throw on a new launch mount on there, and you're good to go. There's a lot less to do at Pad 1, so I can honestly see Pad 1 being ready to support an operational launch probably early 2027, maybe late 2026 if they work fast enough. But definitely Pad 1, I think.
But do you think that it's not a benefit to be starting completely from scratch at this point, where you're not having to dig up or replace old hardware or try and figure out how to make things work, where you literally have a flat bed of dirt and can build whatever you want, however you want, knowing the updated specs of your vehicle? Is that not a bonus to make it go faster when you can just say, all right, we know what we need to build, we're fast at building things, let's build it?
Yeah, but again, there's so much less to do in Starbase, though. Like, just comparatively speaking. I hear you. I fully understand your point, Sawyer. I do. But there's just so much less work to do in Starbase, and the workforce in Starbase is already proven. Like, we still have yet to see rapid movement at launch complexes for SpaceX here in Florida. We've seen how long it took Pad A to come online, or it isn't even online, but to make the progress that it currently has so far, plus a multi-year gap in progress, because all of their focus transitioned from trying to get Starship operational in Florida and getting it up and getting it more ready in Starbase. So definitely Pad 1. That has my vote.
So your timing, you think, if they're able to do early 2027, let's say the latest for Pad 1 and Starbase, when Slick 37 then? When do you think that'll be ready? You don't think that'll be ready by 27?
Mid to late 27, I think, yeah.
Ooh, okay. See, I could see that actually coming a little earlier. I could see it being really close where 37 gets online beginning of 27, especially depending on how well things go over at Pad A here at the Cape at 39A. It's so confusing. A1, this pad, that, you know.
I just heard D go, ooh. So I think D's chomping at the bit here to say something. D, hop in.
I really think that's optimistic to have 37 up and going. That's a lot of infrastructure that they have to get in place. Like, I mean, Max, I think you were right on top of it with what you were saying. They've got 4 towers to build there. All the flame trenches. All the commodities. Like, that's so much compared to a retrofit.
Yeah.
But you don't need all 4 up and running, though, by the time you launch your first vehicle. You just need a launch tower.
Does it make logistical sense to do it that way? That goes back to something I was saying earlier. I don't think it makes logistical sense to just focus on one tower at a time and then slowly move on to the next and the next and the next. Then you're going to have the massive cranes all right there. I think it makes more sense to do a slightly more measured approach and build it all up at once. You've got Tower 1. You've got the 39A tower. You've got Tower 2 at that point. Do they really need to have that one extra online, or can they speed up getting all 4 online, getting it to the configuration they want it in, by just focusing on getting all of them at once without dealing with downtime for launches, without dealing with downtime for static fires? I think it makes more sense to focus on the build out at 37, take care of the launches elsewhere, and then get it all done at once. I don't know. I could be wrong. We'll see.
D, I completely and wholeheartedly agree with you on that front. Like, they don't have the room to be step by step in Florida, the way that they have been in Starbase. Because by the time Starship starts flying from 37, it's going to have to be operational or near operational status. It's the same way from Pad A at KSC. Like, it can't be this extremely experimental vehicle because of how much more infrastructure is at risk around there, not just with SpaceX. ULA's Pad 41 is just down the road. LC-39B is a mile and a half away, which currently supports SLS. And not to mention Pad 40 as well, and obviously going down to 37. We have yet to see how it actually affects other infrastructure beyond what we've seen in Pad 2 and in Starbase, and also just these surrounding areas of like Brownsville, Port Isabel, South Padre Island. There's a lot more at risk here, so you're definitely onto it.
And I mean, a couple of things. I see someone pointing out, it's hard to build when you're constantly launching like that.
Yeah.
They did that, though, with the crew access tower at 40. They were at a pretty good pace at that point and still able to build it. And in terms of the number of towers, right now, the way that it's set up over at Hangar X and Roberts Road, you're basically building one tower at a time. So it's not like you can just build 4 of them simultaneously. Or if you can, you're still limited by the number of spaces you have there.
So why? I think it's different with 40 because they already had a launch pad there.
Yep.
They're already able to do launches. So are they going to cut their most active launch pad off relying on 39A? That doesn't make sense to me. They can build the crew tower at 40 in between the launches and deal with the delays. They can launch crew from 39A. They can do other missions from 40 still while they slowly work on the crew tower. With 37, they've got 4 towers to build there overall. Are they going to have a crane that's working on a tower and having to leave like every other day because they're trying to do, well, it wouldn't be 76 launches with one tower, but I don't think it makes sense. Even if they sequentially build one tower and then the other and then the other, I don't think it makes sense to do launches in between there, having to deal with moving the crews out. You talked about all the crews that they're hiring to do the work. Are you going to have all those crews having to clear and not work? It's different. They're going to hit a point where, yeah, they're going to start launching there, but I think they really want to get those towers built, get them operational.
Yeah. And also, Starship or Falcon 9 isn't Starship. Starship is a whole other beast that puts out an enormous amount of power and thrust compared to Falcon, where Falcon is not an unpowerful vehicle. It's incredibly powerful, and it's incredibly loud and incredibly fast. But nothing compares to Starship, let alone version 3 with the new Raptor 3 engines. And we've already seen what Super Heavy can do just on the old Raptor 2s. On the original launch mount design. Like, it's going to tear stuff up. And if you're trying to manage construction hardware around in between launches, it's going to blow some stuff around. It's going to cause damages that you're going to have to account for and then put back into your equation for timelines in construction. It's going to be a whole headache.
I mean, I get it. It's... I'm going to be intrigued to see how quickly they are able to get it up and if they start launching with the first tower or two, or if they're going to build out the complex entirely. So I'm interested in that. And chat, also interested in your opinions as we continue on here too. Let me stop a moment and just thank some people here really quick. Rosebud53 with the $10 super chat saying, with goals and funding changes every election, contractors have to be able to submit change orders when the scope of work evolves. So kind of like we were talking about earlier with Starliner. And Mr. Fluffy coming in saying, yes, Sawyer, West Coast, let's go. Heck no. Definitely not. Let's not go.
Yeah, well...
What?
I heard, like through the rumor mill, that there might have been a launch from the West Coast that could actually be seen. I think it's like breaking news. I don't think they're used to that over there. Like, they saw a rocket in the air. I think that was like a major news story.
Yeah, it wasn't a night one
Jack's
either, where it was
listening.
people in Arizona.
That was good, D. That was good. A rumor, legend has it that people may have been able to see a launch that happened somewhat recently.
Allegedly.
Eric in chat says it was gorgeous from Southern California today. Yeah, breaking news. It was gorgeous.
Yeah, they lifted the secrecy shroud since it was just a transporter mission.
NASA wanted to be able to talk about the sats on this mission.
I guess so. Also a 30-flight booster now, mind you.
Of course, it was a West Coast one, but the East Coast one still holds the record for the most.
Yeah, but they stole Booster 100 from us.
Oh my God, stop. Don't bring that up.
I know. I'm sorry. All right, do we want to go back to Starship? Because we can talk about some of the like stacking and stuff. Because I know we were worried about Booster 19, but...
Yeah, we talked about Cape Starship. Let's go to Starbase Starship stuff.
Awesome. So let's take a look, actually, the graphic put together here by the Starbase tracking team. They've got segments together for Booster 19 already. That's 3 segments together. So I know, was it just last week that we were talking about how delayed they might be?
Mm-hmm. Last Friday. It happened it happened day of the last flame trench. 1 week ago today.
And that's wild. And we were talking about how they haven't started stacking, and this could be a huge delay. Now, SpaceX has sort of jumped at that, saying that they're going to move on to the next booster, get the stacking going. Well, here we are. They've got segments already stacking for this booster. They've got a long way to go still. Mm-hmm. It'll be some time until we see it ready to fly. But they're already making progress, and it's sad. You can see the Booster 18 being demolished in this graphic.
It's kind of easy to fool if you don't know what you're looking at. Like, oh, Booster 18 is coming along really well. Oh.
You know, it does. We talked about it last time, that could they just, take the segment of Booster 19 and put it on Booster 18? This graphic makes it look like they really could do that, even though I think there's no chance at all that that would ever happen.
No way.
The graphic makes
Absolutely
it look
not.
like it, though.
It does. The graphic is misleading.
I mean, keep in mind, though, they removed this barrel segment, and what you saw sticking out was a Falcon 9-sized up-down transferee tube comer. I don't know. What did we call it last week? The support? The holder upper or whatever?
The down tuber?
Upholder. Not the
Upholder.
downcomer, it's the upholder.
The upholder.
Yeah, it was wild seeing that as they removed it. All of a sudden, it's just like, oh yeah, here's a giant, this thing's Falcon 9 size sticking out of it with the bottom kind of blown apart. But still, of the vehicle, I should say, not the transfer tube.
Yeah, I don't know. We had our a kind of downer show at times, so I wanted to they're making good progress here. Last week
We need some positivity.
we do need some positive. I've really tried to bring some positivity into this show. Then you know what? They're stacking Booster 19, so that's a good thing. Obviously, we can't see it at the moment, based on the camera angles and the bays there, and we can't see it.
That is such a cool view, though. Like you're looking down one of the future bays for work bays for Gigabay. That's what that is. That is such a cool sight.
But they're getting those segments stacked.
Yeah,
It would be cooler to see the actual segments in there, but the whole door being closed thing is a minor detail.
Minor detail.
So the segments that we're seeing right now today, at least, I mean, we're making a little bit of progress towards 19. What do we think then, launch-wise? Do we think that we're any closer? Do we think that there was still a major setback from Booster 18?
I mean, it was undeniably a setback.
Oh yeah.
I don't think we can pretend it's not. But so if they can get this out to masses towards the end of next month, get static fires underway, get ship stacked, I don't think this will be a June launch for Flight 12. Let me just say that to do a slight throwback to last week, throw a little bit of shade. I don't think we're looking at June. I think we're looking at significantly sooner than June.
Webby catching strays always.
Sorry, Webby.
No, you're not.
No, you're not.
No, not. Look at that. That's its slightly energetic pop of Booster 18. I don't think that will buff out.
It wasn't even a cryo test. It was a pressure test.
Yeah.
But I think this is probably going to be a hot take.
All right, let's hear it.
I think if they can get 19 completely stacked by the end of the year, maybe even knock out a pressure and or cryo test at Massey's by the end of the year, and Ship 39 comes along well, I can honestly see a late February launch.
I'm with you. I don't
It's
see
early.
that as that hot a take.
It's early.
To be totally honest.
I know. More realistically, probably going to be in the March timeframe or April. But I don't, at the moment, I don't foresee February not being viable right now.
You want me to change the mood of this positivity very dramatically?
And
Don't
beer.
mention SLS and Crew 12.
No, don't.
Cool, I have nothing to say now.
Don't
if
you
we're
dare.
staying positive, if I'm not saying that, yeah.
Don't you dare. You are forbidden.
I won't say it. I won't say it.
Yeah, knowing our photographer's luck, it will happen that Starship
Stop it.
and SLS, Artemis 2, and Crew 12 will
And
all
New Glenn
happen
flight.
within a couple weeks.
Don't forget another New Glenn that's in there.
Yeah,
Oh, I
at some
forgot
point.
about NG3. Yeah.
Who knows when it would be NG3, NG4, there'll be a New Glenn in there for sure somewhere.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, that's going to be Murphy's Law, that all of those will happen simultaneously, and our crew is running between coasts.
Well,
between
if
Gulf
Murphy's
Coast and East
listening,
Coast.
more rockets, more better doesn't mean all at the same time. They can have a gap between them.
And if it's Webby's Law, they'll all have a pad fallback.
Oh my god.
I joke. Ryan Weber loves using that term in Discord, so I think we're probably closer to March, if I had to guess. I mean, definitely not June. I think a lot of it's going to depend on how fast they're able to get things online. How fast they're able to get the pad online, especially get the tower and everything set up and ready there. I think that's going to be a big factor. Also, a big factor will be SLS pushing to March, probably. So that's why it'll also be March.
I don't know why. Our Artemis gives me the biggest anxiety for time crunch compared to either New Glenn Flight 3, Starship Flight 12.
You just said it with the
and-
numbers.
You what?
We're on New Glenn Flight 3 next. We're not
Yeah.
worried about it as much. We're on Flight 12 of Starship. Yes, it's a new block.
You know
With
what?
SLS, this is crude. This is going around the moon. This
Crew
is a
Flight 1.
huge deal. It's only the second launch of SLS ever. Maybe we'll get daylight.
Not that I
I
want.
hope.
I think it has to get pushed to April for a daylight window to actually be feasible. And selfishly, I'm hoping that's the case.
Me too.
Yeah, I know. I know all of us that are holding cameras are all like, yes, like April, please, April, please. But I don't know. I think New Glenn is. You know what? That's actually a really good point. That's a really good point. I think New Glenn Flight 3 would probably be at the bottom in terms of if we had to rank these three, at least just on my end. I think New Glenn Flight 3 is at the bottom, but it's really tight between Artemis 2 and Flight 12. Only because, and I hear you.
Not for me.
I hear you. I hear you, but I think Flight 12 is only so high is because it's a new block. That's why it's so important. It's a brand new trench design. It visually is going to look like nothing we've ever seen before with Starship, and we haven't been able to say that for a while. And so it's really important for us to have coverage of it and to be there for it. But obviously, Artemis 2 takes the cake, like wholeheartedly, without even question. It is 100% at the top. Crewed back to the moon, flight of SLS that happens once every 2 to 3 years. There's no comparison.
Nobody needs to be in Starbase for Flight 12 if it is the day of Artemis 2 is my take. I would also say New Glenn is still, this is somewhat special because they are working to increase thrust, so we might actually see a faster rise off the pad. But especially for stills, that's not going to show up in any of the same sort of ways. So it is still exciting. There are still new things. Even if from a visual perspective for us, it's not the most enticing of the three very exciting rockets. We're comparing the three mammoths of the launch industry.
I mean, three biggest vehicles essentially in the U.S. right now.
Yeah. How lucky are we to be able to have this problem?
I know. What? This is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then there's Falcon. Yeah, and then there's Maud.
Yeah, it's Falcon. There'll be another one.
But Crew 12, you know what I mean? There's still people on it.
Yeah. I just really hope that we get a Falcon Heavy next year at some point. More than one, but probably just one.
But hey, if we go to April, then we get Starliner 1 thrown in the mix.
You know, I have to say, what I'm excited for will be an RTLS to the launch pad. Because I haven't gone to California and seen a true return to launch site.
That's right.
If I had gone to California, I probably also wouldn't have seen the RTLS because of the fog.
Hey!
Sorry, I have to work the West Coast digs in there.
I appreciate it.
That is something that will be so unique to capture. I want to have remotes for that. I want to have all the coverage of that. And sure, they'll become more common, but get the dual streak shots. There's so many opportunities for us visually that we can play with once we have the RTLS to the same pad the rocket launched from.
100%.
I know. Oh, I'm already picturing the shots on that. But 39As, for those wondering, still not really started from what we can see yet. The one at 40 is definitely in work. So to have the launch and landing back at pad 40, because LZ 1 and 2 are basically, by the end of the year, they're going to be gone. They've already stopped using LZ1. LZ2 has until the end of the year. And then everything has to launch and land at the same pad. So it's one of those, again, where if it launches from 40, it has to land at 40. If it launches from 39A, it has to land at 39A. You can't launch from one and land at the other. So 40 would be the first one online, but imagine that. And having Starship 39A too. Just saying. Let's see here. Mr. Fluffy says, DY is no longer my favorite photographer.
Oh!
I saw that. I saw that.
Ouch.
I just needed to get the correct amount of Vandy Slandy.
You did not
I
just say
want-
Vandy Slandy.
I did say that. Jack has said that exact term. You know, I do want to go to California. I want to shoot some California launches. But I haven't seen... Well, I've technically seen California launches, but not properly. So, I want to get a proper Vandenberg viewing experience.
I do as well. I've been scheduled to go there 4 times at this point and had to cancel every single one, unfortunately. It was Landsat, Landsat, which was, I think, one of the last Atlases to fly, if not the last Atlas to fly from Vandy, the last Delta IV Heavy, and a couple of, I think it was DART and one other Falcon mission. So 2 Falcons, an Atlas, and a Delta, and I had to cancel all of them. So I'm due for a Vandy trip.
Hey, Space Launch Delta 30. Do you wanna work with us too? We can try and do that.
Yes, please.
It's SLD 30 out on the West Coast, whereas we have 45 here on the East Coast, if I recall correctly.
Yep.
But I mean, yeah, if you want the experience, just close your eyes at a Falcon 9 launch here.
That's harsh. That's harsh.
Once it like clears the tower and the fog layer and stuff. So basically, at liftoff, close your eyes till about 6 or 10 seconds later, and then it's more realistic.
I've done my fair share. I've angered enough of chat. I think I will back off on the negative comments about Vandenberg now.
Oh, that's no fun.
Oh, I've had my fun.
Okay, all these people talking about some guy named Elk, I think. I don't know. I think they're misspelling Jake's name. My cat is behind
probably.
me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know who this Jack is. His name is Jake, and he's a fluffy butt. Let's see here. Surprisingly, question light on Starship tonight, but yeah, Space Force says Vandy permit denied. They'll watch the flame trench, see all our slander, and go, yeah, NSF, no, sorry, not happening.
No. Banned.
Oh, jeez. So in terms of Starship pad infrastructure, I guess that's kind of the big thing that I've been seeing people talking about in regards to, the next Starship flight out of Starbase itself. Do we know how far along we are, where we're at with the pad?
I think the pad's borderline... No, maybe not borderline done, but it's nearing completion. The second launch mount is pretty well buttoned up. They're getting the backs of the BQDs, or the booster quick disconnects, put on, the shielding. The ship QD arm was just recently lifted and put into place. It's starting to resemble a complete launch pad. I think if they really had to support a cryo test of sorts on a booster, they could probably do it. Maybe. This is when I need like Ryan Weber or somebody to come in and correct me and go, no, they can't. But it's coming along well. The pad looks really good. That new launch mount design looks phenomenal, especially when all the cladding is finished and all the scaffolding's taken it off, and we can see it in its full design glory. I think it could be operational by the end of the year. The pad itself, not the actual rocket, but the actual pad itself, obviously.
I mean, that design is really slick looking.
Look at that. That looks so sick.
It does, with the double ramp side to it. I mean, I personally love ramps, but that is absolutely gorgeous.
Jesus, Sawyer.
I'm sorry, I had to make that joke there. But you think by the end of the year?
The pad itself could be ready by the end of the year. Yeah.
I was thinking January. D, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't
Good
know.
answer.
I'm sorry.
I mean, it's been coming along, and again, don't forget you can keep following the progress, Starbase Live 24/7. But I think it's going to take a little bit longer because you also have the holidays coming up too. I don't know if the employees are going to be working all the way through the Christmas and New Year's holiday too. So just throwing that out there. I don't know. Hey, there's Starbase Live. Oh boy, there is so much news that we still didn't even get to cover today. I mean, there's so much more going on. There was a whole big thing with ESA with their budget, and they are all in on, there it is, ESA's biggest budget yet. They are all in on space on this one. We actually had one of our team members who was down there taking a look at their latest update on the budget, go into details on that on Twists. There's a lot of good stories in there, so I would stick around for this for sure. That is coming up immediately after the conclusion here of the Flame Trench. Wait, is it a Friday today?
It is Friday, believe it or not. I know,
Doesn't
I know
feel
it doesn't
like it.
feel like it. It doesn't feel like it, but it is Friday.
Oh man, I should get one of the calendars at the shop at shop.nasaspaceflight.com, which may not be part of our Cyber deal, but a lot of the classics are back, folks. Don't forget, it is Cyber Week 2025. 20% off some of our legacy collections, some of our oldie but goodie favorites that people sometimes forget about because we have these amazing new designs and things that come out, but can't forget the classics. And if you missed one of those classics, you can still get them now and at a discount there. So check out the apparel, see the hats. You cannot buy a Max, unfortunately.
No, I'm not for sale.
I am, though. Payola, folks.
Jesus.
I will come to your personal event and be your Sawyer. There you go. Not available in the shop, but available via DM. No, I'm kidding. But yeah, speaking of those calendars, we have the two calendars out. Of course, Starbase, as we were talking about everything going on with Starship, we have the calendar specifically just for that. We also have the general spaceflight one. I mean, look at that. Would you look at that?
It's a good looking calendar. I know we're
There's
biased, but it is a very good looking calendar.
There are some awesome shots in it. And yes, I'm also very biased to the general calendar because one of my photos is in that one as well. And it has a lot of Space Coast stuff. But, you know, East Coast, Best Coast. I don't think there's any West Coast in any of these because East Coast, Best Coast, right?
Always. East Coast supremacy.
I mean, there's photos from other countries even in there before West Coast.
I mean, like the northwest coast of Norway, yeah. There's a West Coast photo in there. There's some Firefly in there, it looks like. You know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, right. Firefly's in there, you're right.
It's got variety from around the world, but mostly America.
And mostly Florida.
You'll just have to buy it and find out. That's what it comes down to. Or take it and then, you know, for all the East Coast ones, just put a giant X over the rocket for all you West Coasters, and we'll just put an X over all the West Coast rockets here as East Coasters. How about that? Even though our photographers go out and do amazing work and getting all of these shots and setting them up. And it's fun at the end of the year, I gotta say, when we go through all of our shots and picking the best of the best, and it's like, ooh, this would be cool, or you forget, it's like, oh yeah, that was January, that was this year. It's hard to believe sometimes.
I know.
I don't know if you guys felt the same way going through your calendar photos.
Yeah. I remember Thanksgiving last year like it was yesterday, and now here we are the following year. This has been a wildly busy year and action-packed year, both here and in Starbase with how often they were flying here too. It's been a good busy, but very, very busy. I mean, when you're busy and having fun, time does pass rather quickly.
And see, I remember this year's Thanksgiving like it was yesterday. Get it? Because it was yesterday?
I'm not laughing.
I'm not laughing.
You say that. You can't see you on screen. There's a smile.
Nope.
Oh, now there's not.
No,
that took an effort.
We got there, though. We got the... I got
Okay,
the
Can't
no,
not
that's
smile now. I'm
just-
focused on. Why are you doing that, Jay?
torture, that's why. Because you're stuck with my puns. And again, the worst part that people don't realize is when I'm actually up there for a launch, there is no mute button. You're just stuck with them in person.
The closest thing to a mute button is like noise-canceling headphones.
Or just ask whoever's asking me questions. Throw a question to Sawyer, that way he has to talk about other stuff. But
What, in person?
yeah.
Or just like lock one of the wheels of your wheelchair and walk away.
No, locking wouldn't work. You'd have to like put a stick or something in between the spokes so that I can't go anywhere.
That's true. That too.
Now we're getting somewhere. Folks, this is what you don't see that actually happens when we're out shooting these launches. This is just how we normally are, the banter that we do.
It
I'm
really
glad that we can share it. I'm glad we could share it with you guys on the Flame Trench. So I got to thank. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I was just going to say, like, the more tired we get, the less of a filter we have, and we're just talking and bantering with each other. It's been 3 hours at this point. Like, it's just coming and going. Like, we're just, yeah.
Can I real quick, in chat from at NASASpaceflight, actually from KMR, or just run away really fast from Sawyer, followed by, I may have done that a few times.
Power assist wheels. I have power assist wheels. No, you didn't run away from me. You had to run away from when you got sprayed by the vehicle getting ready to wet the crawler way.
That was fun.
That was the real only running you had to do.
That was fun. But I didn't know KMR could run.
Me neither. Anyway, Max, thanks for joining me today.
Hey, it's been a pleasure as always, everyone, and thank you very much for coming to hang out with us, because we know you probably have better places that you should be. But pleasure as always, and we hope to see you again soon.
D-Wise, thank you as well for joining on the Flame Trench.
Of course, it's been an absolute pleasure. Hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Had a wonderful Thanksgiving for those of you in the U.S. who are celebrating. And I will see you all next time for the next launch on Sunday, probably, I think.
Tomorrow night, actually.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Yeah, it's the lovely 12 to 4 a.m. Eastern windows.
I mean, midnight isn't the worst, but like if it goes into the window, that's when we're going to be like...
Let me check next spaceflight.
Yes.
That's when we'll be dead. Yeah, by the way, KMR in chat saying, I didn't know I could run either. Jay Keegan's been pushing the buttons and pulling the levers for us tonight. And of course, one other group of people that we have to thank is our members, and in particular, the launch directors and flight engineers. These are the highest levels of support that we have here at NSF. And you get your names there at the end of all the Flame Trenches and our NSF live shows, in addition to access to the NSF Discord and the pre and post shows. So thank you to all of them. Flight engineers, if we ever build a parking lot, I'll make sure you get a space. Deal? I am Sawyer Rosenstein, though. I have been your host for this episode of The Flame Trench, where thankfully nothing ended up upside down, because we're not Russia. Thanks everyone for watching. Stick around. This Week in Spaceflight with Alicia, with more serious look at news coming up next.
And here we go. We have liftoff.
Propulsion continues to be normal.
R68 chamber pressure looks good.
Following up.
Water towers, fly! Yes! Tango down to nominal.
Sliding down to ST off. Bring in ST off. It's orange! R45! Oh my god! Oh my god! Decollage! Look at this! Put that in the big bag,
343 unfolds to go.
Indeed.
We rise together back to the moon and beyond.
This methane will be igniting in the flare, correct?
Yikes! You dead? We don't need any more of these.